I can't help it that I look good, smell good, woo, can dance all night long. But the crew runs to the top, oh yeah. You've been talking to the apes and the giraffes and chimpanzees again, haven't you? Yes, I'm excited!
All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Fast Freddie Rocks Youngstown, coming to you live and direct from the state-of-the-art Youngstown studios in beautiful downtown Youngstown, Ohio. And I got to tell you, we had the downtown reopening a couple of weeks ago, and we had an awesome time, man. We had some great bands down here. And all the places were jamming, and it was good to see so many people coming down. And I see today that the tree lighting ceremony is going to be on December 6th. You ever been down there to the tree lighting? What a great time, man. You don't even think you're in Youngstown when you see that thing. So anyways, Fast Freddie here. And with me today is my special guest, JT, oldies extraordinaire or oldies guru extraordinaire.
Hey, whoa, watch that old stuff, man. Good to be with you, Freddie.
I thought of being an oldie but a goodie was a good thing, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I got to think about that one.
Okay. Well, most of the people that we're going to talk to are a little bit older.
That's
okay?
true. That's true.
So here's what we got planned today. Our good buddy, Father Jimmy Drucker, the rock and roll priest, is going to stop by a little later on tonight. And he's going to be hooking us up with Vinnie Martell from the Vanilla Fudge and Saul Butera from the Letterman. So those are going to be two guys that we're going to be talking to tonight. But first of all, we're going to start this with an interview with Mitch Ryder from the Detroit Wheels. The legendary Mitch Ryder is coming to Robbins Theater on December 8th, and he's going to be there with Samantha Fish, Canned Heat, couple other acts. We'll get into it in a second here, but it's going to be a great night of music. And we're going to start with Mitch Ryder, and then we'll take we're going to talk a little bit about that afterwards. We'll get Father Jimmy in the mix. We'll get Vinnie Martell in here, and talk about the Letterman too. So good oldie show coming up tonight. So let's get right down to our conversation with Mitch Ryder from the Detroit Wheels. Coming up on Friday, November 8th, the Robbins Theater in downtown Warren. Man, do we have a big show commemorating Rough Records' big 30th anniversary. And it is a star-studded show, including Samantha Fish, Bernard Ellison, Canned Heat, Gahalia Volt, and the one and only Mitch Ryder from the Detroit Wheels. And Mitch is with us here this afternoon. Mitch, thanks for taking some time out. What's going on, man? How you been?
I've been busy.
It sounds like it. Tell us a little bit about this big show here for the Rough Records. First of all, tell us a little bit about Rough Records, and then we'll talk about some of the people that are on this bill.
Well, the record company is in Germany, and I have developed an alternate career over there because essentially what I had over here was either being part of a package or working on weekends and being treated as a legend. And that wasn't as lucrative as what I was doing in Europe. I've developed since 1979, a very loyal following, especially in Germany. And so I signed with this record company called Rough Records. Thomas Roof is the guy that owns the record company, and he does a caravan of his stars, people that are signed to his label. And all of the acts you mentioned, including myself, are all signed to him at this moment. And so we do this tour, and this will be the first one I've done. So I don't really know a lot to tell you about it, but, it's going to be my first experience. And if it's like any other tour, going way back to when Dick Clark did his tours, which I was involved in those, I imagine nothing much has changed in the way that works.
Right. So now you got involved with Rough Records because, like you say, you didn't want to be like on a quote-unquote oldie show or something like that. You still have a lot of music in you that you feel that you want to get out there, and it seems like this Rough Records is the avenue to get that out there. Plus, you got these loyal fans in Europe that are very interested in what you're doing.
We put out a double vinyl. It was of two live recordings that we did, and it turned out to be an excellent musical choice. But I just completed a studio album produced by Don Was here in Detroit, and that will be released in November in time to support our European tour.
Right.
So, yeah, we're busy. We're just extremely busy.
Yeah, you got a lot going on at this point.
Yeah, I signed a new manager, and so we expect a lot to come from that as well.
So that's got to be pretty exciting for you too, man. I mean, you're still out there swinging, you know, and that's got to make you feel good.
It does. It's certainly not a negative.
Yeah. Now you've been at this for a long time, and you know, how did you get started? How did you get started in the music business? What made you, want to get out there and do what you do?
I cut my first record when I was 16 years old for a gospel label in Detroit, and then I put out another record in Detroit with a group which later became the Detroit Wheels. And nothing happened with that locally. But it caught the attention of a producer in New York who took us there and made the hits that he made with us. And then the group broke up. And for those, out of a 59-year career that I have, those 3 years with the Wheels were the most impactful in terms of getting hit records. But since that time, I've had a wonderful career as well. And I did return to the charts in 1983, finally, after that album that was produced by John Mellencamp occurred.
Right.
And I had the single "When You Were Mine," and so just things just keep falling into place. And as long as I can sing, I'll be up there and doing it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Now, Detroit, you call Detroit Rock City. When you look at the history of how many entertainers have come out there, everything from Motown to, Madonna and Eminem and Bob Seger and Grand Funk Railroad and the Detroit Wheels and all these great bands. What is it about Detroit that produces all this musical talent?
I don't think you have too many choices. If you're a young man or woman and you want to do something with your life, make a career, basically it's either going to be through athletics or music. For people that aren't born into wealth, those are the two avenues of seeking recognition.
Now, when you look at Detroit and the audiences in Detroit, would you say that Detroit was kind of a tough place to play and that you had to be good to win these audiences over?
I think, when you're up against manufactured stuff coming out of New York and LA, and you're coming from Detroit, in order to compete and impress people, because you don't have the PR and the news outlets that you have in those major cities. So you have to do it some other way. And that other way is to outperform your competition.
And you had some stiff competition back then. I mean, all these bands that I had mentioned earlier. Now, was the club scene like that? I mean, was it like on a Friday night? Did you have Bob Seger at this place and the Amboy Dukes over here and, Alice Cooper here?
Yeah, it was like that.
It was like that. So it was that competitive of a scene. Yeah,
of course. And then, of course, once we got to New York, we had to battle the British invasion as well.
Right. Oh, you know what? I saw somewhere, and I meant to ask you this. Now you're talking about it because, what was the show? Oh, you were you were the last person to play with Otis Redding, correct?
Yeah, that was for a TV show out of Cleveland called Upbeat.
Right. I saw that. And the reason I was going to bring that up, too, and that you mentioned that, Benjamin Orr, the bass player from the Cars, had a band called the Grasshoppers, and they were a regular on that show as well. And that's how him and Rick Ocasek met up through that TV show and formed the Cars from there. So, yeah, that's just another one of those Ohio connections there that it's just like this whole, Great Lakes region. There's just something about it. And like you say, if you didn't want to go work in the car factory and you wanted to do something a little different, either you picked up a football, you put on some boxing gloves, or you picked up a guitar and tried to make it that way. You were the last person to perform with Otis Redding. Tell me a little bit about Otis Redding, because it seems like he was one of those guys that was just on the verge of hitting it big. Did you think of that? Did you feel that way?
Well, yeah. If you listen to black music when you were a teenager, you realize that it was way before Sitting on the Dock of the Bay that he was a force to be reckoned with. But that was his number one record. After he died, that record shot to number one.
Right.
Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. But he was in when I was down at Stax, I briefly met him there, and then we did that show together. And the only thing I came away, besides being really feeling blessed and honored to be in his company, he was a tall man. He was much taller than me. And we were singing together, and he put his right hand on my right shoulder, and he started to sway. And every time he'd sway to the left, my right foot would come up off the floor. That's what I remember most of that thing.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, when you look back on those days, how about radio stations? What were some of the radio stations or DJs that you listened to, or who were some of the people in radio that helped you along back then? And who were the popular guys, and who was making it happen in Detroit? I mean, was CKLW big at the time? And
CKLW was Canadian, actually.
Right.
And Rosalie was the big name. And if you wanted to get something played, you had to be in Rosalie's favor. And that was a big signal they were sending out. It covered Ohio. It went all the way down to Tennessee.
Yeah.
And so, it had a lot of power. And that's who you wanted to see. Locally, we had WKNR. I don't know what these call letters would mean to anybody in Ohio.
Right.
Just as I wouldn't know what your call letters would
oh,
be.
No. Wait. No, this Y103, that's not world renowned. WYFM. Isn't that world renowned? I mean, isn't that the whole thing when you saw, I can't believe I'm going to be on Y103?
It came to my mind. And a lot of people don't know that Fast Freddie was actually the name that you borrowed, apparently came out of a speakeasy during the Mafia years. But we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah. We especially, hey, Youngstown, we are a pretty big mob town here too. That's another thing I think we have in common with Detroit, besides automaking. Oh yeah, back in the day, man, that was something else. Did you ever come across some mob clubs you had to play or end up with?
Yeah, I did in Boston, for example, where after we were leaving, the club owner and his partner were shooting live bullets into our van as we were leaving.
Oh man! Well, there's a thing out there. If you look it up on the internet on YouTube somewhere, there's a story about Richard Pryor talking about he was a comedian. For this stripper, I think her name was China Doll, if I'm not mistaken. And anyways, they played a mob club in Youngstown, and the mob didn't want to pay him. And Richard Pryor went in there to try to get the money back. And I'll tell you what, if you look that up, the story is hilarious, but it's absolutely true. And when you listen to it, you're just going, yep, that's Youngstown. I can see that whole thing going. You could just picture what these guys look like and everything. So why were these guys shooting at you?
Because my bass player decided to lean over the bar and grab for himself a free bottle of whiskey.
Oh, okay. That explains that one. That explains that one. That explains that one. Oh, man, that is awesome. I knew
something was wrong when we went to get paid in the manager's office. He had every bit of cash he had in his safe. He had it out on the desk, and he had guns laying on the table. And we wanted to collect what we were owed. And he said, take out what you think you're owed.
Oh, man.
And so we started to take out what we thought we were owed. He said, no, put half of that back. And we didn't say anything. We just wanted to get out of there because now they were pointing the guns at us. Oh. And we left what we thought would be quietly. And upon entering our vehicles, they opened the windows to the second floor of the club and started spraying the alley, which was where we were parked, not only in our transportation, but also in our equipment truck.
Oh, wow. That's wild. You know what? And you talk about that back office and these mob bars. I know exactly what that looks like, you know, with the gun sitting on the table and maybe a baseball bat sitting in the corner and a shotgun over here. Oh, yeah, man. I just picture that. I could just see it, and I can picture practically what the guy looks like. Oh,
yeah,
man.
It's not the Americana we want to put on a poster.
No, not quite. Not quite. Now, how is there one gig or one show or something that you think that was really, really big? I mean, that you look back on and go, man, that was like some kind of big festival or something. Is there one or two gigs that stick out in your mind as like, man, this is what Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels was all about?
No, but there was a group that sticks out in my mind as being the best group I was ever involved with. And I called them the Thrashing Brothers, and they were with me on 3 albums, How I Spent My Vacation, Naked But Not Dead, and Got Change for $1 Million. And those were probably the best musicians I've ever worked with. So
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
That sticks out in my mind. You know, people stick out in my mind, not performance.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that's good. So you would put those guys on like a list of maybe some underappreciated artists, because I know every city has these guys that are just every bit as good, or if not better, of the people out there. But for some reason, you know, they don't get the laurels that they deserved, or maybe the chips didn't fall their way. So do you have some other guys that that come to mind, like maybe on the Detroit scene that was like that, or like, man, they had this top band, but for some reason they just didn't get that break or that push over the top?
It is about the break. That has a lot to do with it, but you have to realize that a lot of young men and women want to do rock and roll, but if you're with a girlfriend, she's pregnant, you got to get married, you quickly discover that your dream may not be making enough money for you quick enough to support a family. And so if you're a family man and you're inclined to have those kids and raise them, then you got to quit the music thing and get a real job. Once you're competing in the arena for the music, it's highly competitive and cutthroat, and probably one of the filthiest businesses I'm aware of in my life. Right. And yet it exists because it's entertainment. And one thing we love in this country is entertainment. We love it in our music. We love it in our music. We love it in our literature. We love our plays. We love our musicals. We love our symphonies. Music is and creativity. Ballets are wonderful too. I mean,
right.
But that's one of the first things they cut in budgets at high schools.
Isn't that amazing? When I look at even some of the guys from the Youngstown area that have made it as studio musicians or sidemen for big acts, and that have really went on to lucrative careers in the music business, and you for some reason they look at that and like, this guy doesn't need to learn how to play the drums, or that always, because all my kids play instruments too. And it's like, I couldn't imagine them cutting it out. I mean, for some kids, that is the whole thing. Even like art, maybe art is their thing. Maybe music is their thing. And there's ways to go with it. And it seems like sometimes they just kind of ignore that. And that really bothers me a lot.
Yeah, I think it's not fair, but athletics are important to schools. You see how much money is being generated at the college level even.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, the NFL is drafting. There are people now in the NFL that were drafted right from high school.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is crazy.
Same with the NBA. They start looking at some of these kids in high school or in 8th or 9th grade, and they're already keeping an eye on them. Like, come on, man.
They're scouting.
Yeah, it's nuts out there. So what would your, there's been so many changes in the music business now. I mean, I think it's more difficult than ever to get out there, even though you have more, I think you have more avenues to promote your music and to promote your products. But it doesn't seem like they got the people giving the artists the push that they need to get over the top. Do you feel that way? Do you see it that way?
Yeah, I feel like there are no strong hands in the music industry as we speak. And if you want to do something and accomplish it, you have to do it through coalitions. Have you ever watched, for example, a movie, and you see the Warner Brothers thing, which we've all known from the time we were young, and they're because they're the distributor. But when it comes to the movie companies that made that movie, sometimes you have a list of, it's 5 or 6 deep.
Yeah, right.
One movie company cooperated with another movie company, who cooperated with another movie company, all to get the budget to be able to do the film.
Right. Right.
And that's where we're at today. The only thing good that I'm aware of that happened in my industry is what technically what has happened with digital. That really made a lot of things a lot easier and faster for people in my business.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it has done that. But, it just seems like nothing's the same anymore, I'm sure,
well,
I'm sure you've seen so many changes over the years. So what is it that has kept you at it? You talk about, trying to keep a band together. And like you say, somebody gets pregnant, somebody gets arrested. This guy just says, forget about it. I'm working with my dad's construction company, to make it to your point, to the point where you're at now. I mean, what did it take to get to where you're at right now?
A lot of lean years and a lot of profitable years. You have to take the good with the bad. It's like a marriage. It's you for better or for worse, for richer, for poorer. You're married to it. And I'm going to be 80 in February, and this is what I've done for my life's work.
I think that is so awesome.
I have 33 CDs out. I wanted you to know that. 33
CDs. I think that is just so awesome. And you never had like a real job. You never really, you're right. Stuck with the music, and that's carried you from once you started doing it to this point in time. I think that's amazing. I think it's so cool that, you could do exactly what you wanted to do and your love, and you were able to take that all the way to 80 years old. I think that's amazing. It's fantastic. I think everybody should be able to do that with their career.
I don't.
Oh, you don't? Oh, okay.
It is amazing. It is amazing, but the sacrifice that comes with it is not so amazing. And in fact, it's pretty despicable. The hearts you break, the people you have to hurt, the people that you leave behind, putting your passion over the love they have for you, that's not an easy choice.
Wow.
It's a selfish choice.
Wow. I have never looked at it that way. That is, wow. That just blew me away, Mitch.
Well, hey, I'll send you the bill.
All right. That sounds good. Hey, listen, we got to wrap things up. But Mitch Ryder from the Detroit Wheels, it has been such a pleasure to talk to you. And I just think we had such an awesome and interesting conversation. And people are going to be able to see you on stage. And we got the big show. We're commemorating Rough Records' 30th anniversary. It's coming up Friday, November 8th. Robbins Theater. You got Gahelia Volt. You got Canned Heat. You got Bernard Ellison. You got the sensational Samantha Fish and the legendary Mitch Ryder from the Detroit Wheels. Mitch, can't wait to see you on November 8th. I know you guys are going to rock the place. And once again, thank you for the awesome conversation. And we'll see you February 8th here in Warren, or November 8th here in Warren. Freddie. Hey, thanks, Mitch. That was awesome, man. I really appreciated that. Thank you. All right, there we go. Mitch Ryder from the Detroit Wheels. He's coming to Warren next weekend, or November 8th is next weekend already.
Wow. Rock and roll. Mitch Ryder.
Yeah.
My God, the Detroit Wheels. Jenny with the blue dress on. Oh, you're kidding me. We're wiped out here in Youngstown, Ohio, man. I'm telling you, rock on.
Ladies and gentlemen, the star of the show has arrived. Father Jimmy Drucker, the rock and roll priest.
Here I am.
At this point, we just become rock and roll acolytes at this point in time. Yeah.
And how blessed I am to sit at your left because it's reserved to sit at your right?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay,
Right.
Sure
But you're on my left.
Father Jimmy is the man.
He definitely is. Father Jimmy started his radio career back in the days in Scranton, Pennsylvania at WARM, Warm Radio, and big powerhouse on the East Coast, big station. And he also worked there for a period of time with our buddy Pete Gabriel, rest his soul. And Father Jimmy almost decided to come to Youngstown to work in radio, but he decided to become a priest instead. So that just showed you, they said, listen, we're giving you two choices. Either you move to Youngstown or become a priest.
Hey,
you know what?
I leave Warren on 95 on EWARM, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton's #1 station for the Jim Drucker, Father Jim Drucker Night Flight Show at Warm Radio. And Pete was the big fella. And I come into Canfield to be interviewed to possibly join the Society of St. Paul. And when I called them in there, I got to see them. There's noise all around there. I'm going crazy because I'm a disabled vet. I decided not to join with them. But in the meantime, every jock carried an air check in your trunk. You were not a good jock. A scoped air check, by the way. I mean, it's edited. The song, maybe 30 seconds of a commercial PSA, back to you again. I get noise in the background driving me crazy. But anyway, so I had this air check. So I drive in, I hear this signal. My God, it's powerful. It was WKBN. So I go in and I asked for the program director. It was a fellow named Don Guthrie, who later became famous for you fellas here in your area. And he said, what are you interested in? I said, well, I'm from Warm. Oh, he said, give me an air check. I said, sure. And I'm taking a priesthood. So I give him the air check. 3 days later, I'm with Brother Gus, bald-headed monk at Society of St. Paul over in Canfield. And I get a call. And Don says, you're hired. I said, I'm hired for what? He said, I want you to do a PM drive. Afternoon drive. I said, you're kidding me. I said, get behind me, Satan. Get behind me. So I turned it down. 20 years later, I'm a priest. I'm working at the VA in Cleveland, Ohio, Brecksville, and eventually Chillicothe. And through Don Marchese and Diana, politicians, recorder of deeds, and Don was with Jimmy Trafficking, I called the station. And what's the fellow's name? Doctor somebody, is a sportsman, Johnny somebody? Battella, something like Battella, John something. Anyway, he was a son-in-law, married to one of the Marcheses. So I get on the phone, and Don Guthrie answers. I said, do you remember Jim Drucker? He said, oh, yeah, my God, of course. I said, I'm a priest now. I said, wow. He said, so you followed your dream? I said, I did. And I said, I'm celibate. I thought it said celebrate.
I'm celebrating now.
Three dog night, right?
So he says to me, he says to me, he said, here, take notes. I'll ask questions.
Okay.
He says to me,
I'm supposed to be paying attention to what you're saying. I didn't know that was part
I
of
said,
the
Jim
show.
Drucker show we have as our guest today, John. And anyway, and Fast Freddie here. Anyway, so he says to me, yeah, you know what? He said, Jim, I want your father. He said, because he was a Catholic boy. He said, I want you to know that you would have been the first talk show host in the whole state of Ohio. I gave all that up for God.
Well, being a Youngstowner, I hate to lose, but I don't mind losing to God. So you did good.
Yeah, there you are.
I would
Yeah, I don't think anybody in this room is going to go against God on that one.
I'm not going to fight. What was that big musical on Broadway? Your arms are too short to box with God. Does anybody remember that?
Oh, I don't remember that one.
Oh, yeah. It was a big musical. It was on Broadway for 2 or 3 years.
Pal Joey, was it?
No.
That was the name.
The name of the musical was Your Arms Are Too Short to Box with God. And it was on Broadway for 3 or 4 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Check that up, man. So
Okay.
I'm giving you the
I have a
straight.
great show lined up for you and John.
Yeah, well, we already talked to Mitch Ryder from the Detroit Wheels, and we were talking a little bit about Mitch Ryder was the last guy to perform in public with Otis Redding.
Oh,
3 days
sitting on the
before,
dock of the bay.
yeah,
You kidding me,
before we
man?
lost Otis Redding, 3 days before, he was on this TV show in Cleveland called Upbeat. And John and I were talking about this earlier this week, and maybe you can give a little overview of Upbeat and Don Webster and what this show was all about.
Okay, the show comes on in 64. It's a Cleveland station, WJW, which I believe is Channel 8 out of Cleveland. And it's a takeoff on American Bandstand. And they said that that's where they got the idea. They were watching American Bandstand. They saw Don Webster doing his own American Bandstand in Ontario, Canada. Okay. So he's doing the show in Ontario, and they want him to come to Cleveland to do the show in 1964. Then it goes from 64, 2 years. In 66, it goes syndicated, 100 stations, syndication. It goes off the air in 71. But
that's a long run.
I was born in 50. So when it comes on, I'm 14 when it comes on. So I watch Don Webster hosting Upbeat. And then at 7 o'clock, my parents put on Lawrence Welk.
Right.
So I'm glad the two didn't cover each other, because I wouldn't have been allowed to watch Upbeat.
And the list of artists that appeared on Upbeat was amazing. Do you have that list with you, or?
Oh, yeah.
You could look it up.
It's people they just don't understand how many people were there.
And was this a weekday or weeknight?
Saturday evening, early
perfect.
evening.
Saturday night, 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And let's see here.
Well, we had something equivalent of Pennsylvania.
Take it for a
Upstate
second.
Pennsylvania. Scranton had WBRE, and we had a TV bandstand there in Scranton, PA. I'm doing this kill time.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, go ahead. You don't even have to say that. They don't know.
And I used to take up Peanuts, Little Joe and the Thrillers, Peanuts, which the 4 seasons covered. I took up the Sherrys, Popeye, Jamie Guyton Records, and 2 of the girls were daughters of Little Joe Cook and the Thrillers. I took up Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells when she was just kind of just beginning. I was their road manager. I took up Dean Christie. I let her at Axe from Philadelphia. It was a TV bandstand, and of course the epitome was TV bandstand in Philadelphia, WFIL 46th and Market Street, which became American Bandstand.
Right.
Dick
And
Clark.
you've had some encounters with Dick Clark, and some of your friends have had encounters with Dick Clark, like you were friends with Bobby Rydell.
Close friends with Bobby.
And, when you think of bandstand, you automatically think of Bobby Rydell right off the bat.
Absolutely.
And then I forget who your one friend was. We had him on the show, and remember he was talking about something happened, and him and Dick Clark had a big feud and a big
Jerry
falling out.
Gross.
Was that who it
Jerry
was?
Gross, I believe, and he's going to be my guest on my show in Philadelphia. I'll be on 1 year on WWD Delta B Bravo, WWDB AM 860, streaming, but it's a live show. He's going to be on my 52nd show. That'll make it 1 year. He was my first guest in my first year. He was one talked about being down in the South, how they were terrible, treating the blacks terrible
right.
on the bus. And
because he was touring with James Brown.
Absolutely, and Danny and the Juniors and Bobby Darin, a whole slew of people.
Right. And then remember, I think it was he put a TV show on or something, and Dick Clark got upset. He took it as an insult.
Oh yes, I think.
And then they finally ran into each other again at like a big doing in Philadelphia. Right. And him and Dick Clark made up. I remember that story.
I'm pretty sure it was Jerry Gross. And Jerry's a wonderful man.
It probably was. It probably was.
He's now the only living member of the Bristol Stomp Bells. The only living member.
Hey, I got to give a shout out to some of the people checking in here this evening. Barb Fox, good to have you. My buddy Jay Bird. Jay Bird, we have got to get out and get a motorcycle ride in here.
Rock on, Jay Bird.
By Wednesday. My friend Mary is checking in. Dave Childers, he has nothing else to do. He's supposed to be working, but he tunes into the podcast. My friend Debbie Horvath over in Struthers.
Wow.
The Diener tuning in. And I know the Diener is like us. He's a diehard Cleveland Browns fan. And we finally pulled off a big win, which I called. And a lot of people thought it might have been divine intervention from Jimmy Donovan looking over the stadium. I don't know, but it looked like a completely different team. And a special salute to JT from my sister Lenny checking in. See how much she misses you.
Oh, Lenny. We missed her.
No, we don't.
Oh, come on now, Freddie.
No, we don't.
How are we going to get fed if we don't tell her we missed her?
Yeah, that's true.
She won't cook nothing for us.
Yeah. When we do pierogies on Friday or Thursdays, my sister would always have like a big meal. Then they put JT in charge of lunch. We get a bologna sandwich. We get hot dogs and beans. Maybe there are some people there that do miss my sister.
Come on, I had a rotation. It went pizza, hot dogs, and then cold cuts. Come on, every third, it rotated there.
Yeah.
I can't. Wikipedia is not coming up for me for some reason.
Oh, okay. But some of the bands that I can think of off the top of my head, James Brown was on there, Otis Redding, Joe Walsh and the James Gang in their early days.
Eric Carmen.
Yeah, Eric Carmen. But there was a whole lot of big slew of really big people.
Everybody that was big at that time. The guys that did Hang On Sloopy.
Yeah,
that was Real McCoy's.
Right. So
Bang Records.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got to remember he was on the air from 64 to 71. So the groups are going to be a lot of garage bands, with the McCoys and Tommy James doing Hanky Panky, all that stuff.
And that label was owned by Bert Burns, who wrote "It's Your Thing."
Okay, here's some more.
The Isley Brothers,
Eric Carmen, the James Gang, the Damnation of Adam's Blessing. I remember them. The GTOs.
Okay.
Question Mark and the Mysterians. Terry Knight and the Pack. Mitch Ryder. Bob Seger was on there. The Outsiders. The OJs. And the list just goes on and on and on. It was like a who's who. Jackie Wilson, the Box Tops, the Who, Stevie Wonder, Jimmy Buffett, the Fifth Estate, First Edition, B.B. King, the Miracles, Steppenwolf, the Impressions, Bobby Sherman, the Left Bank, the Lemon Pipers, Van Morrison, the Vogues, the Monkees, the Easy Beats, the Yardbirds, the OJs, Blue Cheer, Jefferson Airplane, Little Anthony and the Imperials, Leslie Gore, Frankie Valli, Paul Revere and the Raiders, the Music Explosion,
the American
100
stand of Cleveland,
100 stations syndication out of Cleveland, Ohio.
The Outsiders, the Ides of March, the Buckinghams.
Oh my God, you're my vehicle, baby.
The American Breed, American Breed. Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Ben Me, Sweet Me.
Ben Me,
Shake Me.
Vinny Martell just learned that. He's with a group called the Suitcase Murphy now. They play a lot of gigs in New Jersey, where he lives, Southern Jersey. And his wife, Peg Pearl, who will be joining us shortly, she sings, and she's done a lot of PBS stuff. And Vinny also has done Robbie Robinson. I don't know if you know who he is.
Oh, yeah.
He's the keyboard man for Four Seasons. A music director.
Different Robbie Robinson.
He was the keyboard man for and he has a podcast that's tremendous. And he also did the governor of Arkansas, Huckabee. He did the Huckabee show. So I'm not sure when he comes on, I'd like to introduce him. Vinny Martell, lead guitar player.
How about Huckabee? Huckabee pushing his guitar all the time on TV.
Yes.
Whenever he has a little spot, he picks up.
I'm certainly sure he learned from Vinny, because Vinny plays the guitar like it's an extension of
guitar or bass. Which one?
No, he plays guitar.
Okay, Huckabee prides
bass.
himself in his bass playing.
Okay, bass guitar.
Yeah. I didn't even know that.
Okay. Yeah, the governor, and he filled in. He was the governor following Bill Clinton.
Right.
So Bill Clinton's the governor, and then Mike Huckabee becomes governor.
I was the governor of Arkansas. You have to have musical talent, because remember, Slick Willie used to play the saxophone, if you remember.
I do.
And I think he played with Fleetwood Mac. Fleetwood Mac, he was big fans of them. And
I was there.
Have you seen Slick lately? Yeah, he's a vegetarian because he had a quadruple bypass.
I was stationed there at Little Rock Air Force Base, and I met Bill Clinton at our National Prayer Day in November. When I was there, 87 to 89.
He introduced you to Monica?
No, that's what he was there praying about. He was praying there.
Please, Lord, don't let him introduce me to Monica.
But I'm going to back off for political reasons.
Political or
dinner from Covered Bridge Inn.
Political or spiritual reasons you can back off of that.
And Denny Palifka says hello to him.
Oh, okay.
God bless him.
And then also the probably one of the biggest things that come out of Upbeat was the bass player from the Cars, Benjamin Orr, which was short for his last name. He got a Yuki name. It's like 13 letters long. And
are you going to tell the people what Yuki means?
Oh, Ukrainian.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you're talking to me, but who you talking to, man?
Slava Isusu Christus.
So here you go. I'll give you a shot at his last name there. I'm sure you can get that.
All right, we'll get this.
He's got 13 letters and a lot of C's, H's, and Z's.
Oh, that's the same name we have at Holy Trinity, Freddie. Where you been? That's Orzechowski.
Oh, Orzechowski.
Don't you remember Frank Orzechowski?
Yes,
Who was an altar boy?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
No. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, that's Orzechowski. Yeah.
So anyways, and he was Ukrainian, and his family was devout Byzantine Catholics.
Sure.
And his parents wouldn't let him drive his first car until the priest blessed it.
Well, there's some wisdom in there.
Yeah.
I wish I'd had a blessing on my first car.
You would hit that telephone pole.
Yeah, I hit that guardrail in 71.
That was fire water instead of holy water.
There you go. I tell you, right next to the Orthodox. Let me tell you that quick story. It was 2:00 in the morning coming down.
That's usually when these stories start.
Always. You know what? Your mother always says nothing good happens after midnight.
Yeah.
So it's 2:00 in the morning. It's 3 weeks before Christmas, and I come to a T section. Okay, so there's no straight. You got to turn right or left.
Yeah.
And I had closed my eyes. I kind of, I was a little sleepy.
Resting them.
Yeah, I was resting my eyes. I went through a guardrail, and when I brought the car to a stop, I looked up, and there's a Byzantine cross on my face.
And you're like, oh, I'm saved.
Okay, there's a Serbian Orthodox church, and I stopped the car in a grass field next to the Serbian Orthodox church, and the full moon. So the moon's behind the cross, and when I come to, the cross is on my face. That was 1972. And see, I didn't get a priest to bless my car. That's the whole problem.
Well, there you go.
Father, where were you when I needed my car blessed?
We should explain to the people about the Eastern Church as Eastern Orthodoxy and Eastern Catholicism, which includes Ruthenians and Ukrainians. And we're the same church but we're under Rome, and the Eastern Orthodox are under the Patriarch.
Correct.
Bartholomew, whom I know from Turkey.
Yeah.
Very good friend of mine. I have a story to tell you about. Can I tell about it?
Go ahead.
I meet the holiness of the East, of the Orthodox Church in Constantinople, which is Istanbul.
Is that Bartholomew?
Bartholomew.
Okay, I'm familiar.
And everyone's kissing up to him because they want to be bishops and archbishops because he's the Pope, of the East. And I go in and we meet, and I'm Jimmy Drucker from Philly, a priest for some years, 40 years, whatever. This is 10 years ago. And he introduces himself, says, hello, me. I kiss his ring. We get talking. And he said, Father, I understand you were stationed here in the military. And I said, yes, Your Holiness. I was stationed at Incirlik, and I spoke Turkish to him. I said, Evet, I can't offend him, which means sir, kind of. And I said, yes. And I said, and I spoke a little more Turkish. I said, it was a 2 years, and Incirlik, a Yüzbaşı. And he said, oh, when he starts talking back, and I said, by the way, Your Holiness, what were you? Were you an officer? Were you? He said, I was a chavush, a sergeant. I said, stand at attention, Your Holiness. He stood up like, so help me God. All the bishops around were, oh, you can't do. And he stood, I said, I like you, Father. Oh, I like you. You're funny. You're a good man.
You pulled rank on him.
I said, I was a captain. I was a youth boss.
Yeah.
And he was a 3-striper. So
there you go.
That was absolutely hilarious.
Pulled rank.
And he gave me all his books that he wrote. And we were on the front page of the Sabah, which in Arabic means morning newspaper the next morning.
Wow. That's
wonderful.
Wow.
If there's ever going to be unity, it'll be through his efforts.
Okay.
Not the Patriarch in Russia or anywhere else, but with Bartholomew. He's
Well,
a good-hearted, a good moral, spiritual man.
Problem with the Russian patriarchs, and I'm not talking out of school here. Russian patriarchs do whatever Putin tells them to do right now.
Yeah.
Well, let's say they should be doing more what God tells them.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay, getting back to Benjamin Orr and Upbeat. I'm going to bring this all right back to where we were.
Right.
And tonight might be a special night because usually by this point in time, I would even forgot what we were talking about. What am I thinking? That's okay. So anyway, Benjamin Orr and Upbeat in this TV show, and he had the house band on there, and they were called the Grasshoppers. Wow, and he was on there for a long time. And Rick Ocasek, who was the other member of the Cars, his dad was a scientist at NASA in Cleveland.
Wow.
So he knew he knew Benjamin from watching the show and stuff. And then they met up, and they actually started out as an acoustic duo. And they started out, they were playing acoustic, and then
little Chad and Jeremy.
Yeah, they were kind of like that.
Oh, great,
so they moved to Columbus, and they're doing that. Well, now we're getting probably close to like 70, 71.
Yeah.
And, they were doing the acoustic thing, which was big at that time. And then they moved to Boston, and that's where the Cars really formed and took off from there. But that's how those two met, was through the Upbeat, and they're both from Cleveland. And Benjamin Orr was like a real Cleveland guy. I mean, you know, Browns, Steelers, Cavaliers guy. He'd always come back and get all his high school buddies and then get a suite at the games and things like that. And unfortunately, he died at a young age of
50, 60?
Prostate cancer.
Okay.
Or no, pancreatic cancer.
Pancreatic. Ooh, maybe a smoker.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
More than likely. A lot of them band guys.
Because the two big stars, you know, Michael Landon, 4 packs a day.
I never knew that.
Oh, yeah. Little Joe Cartwright did 4 packs a day, and he
was a Jersey boy.
pancreatic. Okay. And the other guy is Patrick Swayze. Okay,
yeah,
Patrick,
so young.
The Dirty Dancing guy.
Such a talent.
So Patrick Swayze smokes 4 packs a day.
Wow.
Michael Landon smokes 4 packs a day. People don't know it, but I tie in the smoking to the pancreatic.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
And also, you know, George Harrison. He was another big smoker.
Heavy.
Oh yeah, heavy smoker. All them guys.
And one of them guys, the brothers from Australia, was a heavy smoker.
One of the
Bee Gees. One of the Bee Gees, his cancer was from too many butts.
You know, you see some of them pictures too from back in the day, and when these guys are in them recording studios or they're off stage.
Well, look at all the movies, the new Noir movies. Everyone's smoking, puffing away.
Yeah, but movies. I read a big article on that. You know how you have downtime in a movie where there's no talking?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're watching a 1940, 45 movie, and the dialogue has a pause. Well, they've got to get your attention. You know, you're sitting in a movie theater somewhere. So this guy got to light a cigarette. You're watching him smoke. He's got to walk over, grab an apple, or he's got to go over and push the girl or something, you know, when there's,
you know what else too? Another effective prop, a pair of glasses.
On and off.
You notice a lot of those, or you clean them off, you put them back on, you point at somebody with them. A pair of glasses is also another one of those props like that.
You want to talk about somebody using down dead time. Now, I know, Freddie, somewhere you saw the Magnificent Seven.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Okay, and we ain't talking the Denzel Washington of 10 years ago. The original 1960.
Great stuff.
Okay, the top star of the Magnificent Seven, the guy that's getting the biggest paycheck, is Yul Brynner. Okay, he plays Chris, the top gunslinger. The number 2 man there has just come out is Steve McQueen. All Steve McQueen has before this is Wanted Dead or Alive, that half-hour TV show.
And The Blob.
The Blob. Yeah. Okay, Father. Who saw the 1955 Blob? Okay.
Me.
Okay.
I used to watch that after school, and they used to have those scary movies.
Okay. Now I'm going to show you who's the pro here.
Okay.
Okay. In The Blob, there's a girl who is Steve McQueen's love interest when the Blob is floating around.
Can't grab it. I know it.
The name of the girl who's the lead girl in The Blob, who later gets to be a big TV star maybe 10 years later. Any of you guys pull that one up?
I know it, and I can't grab it.
Okay. The name is Anita Corso, and she is Andy Griffith's girlfriend.
Oh, wow.
When you watch Barney and Mayberry, you know, Thelma Lou. Okay. Andy's date, the school teacher, Helen Crump.
Yeah.
Helen Crump is Anita Corso, who starred in The Blob.
You know what's funny about that? Did you ever see the episode when Opie comes home from school? It's like when Andy and Miss Crump first meet, and he's complaining about old lady Crump, and he's in there, and him and his buddies are going, "Oh, old lady Crump is at it again," and and they're just, "Hey, Paul, you gonna go talk to old lady Crump? She made us put our baseball away or something." And the whole show, they're going, "Old lady Crump, old lady
crazy.
Crump."
Tremendous show.
And then Andy Griffith walks in, and it's the romance. Well, actually, it took a while for them two to get together, but
they didn't want the sheriff to be fast moving. But let me get to the point about killing time on a movie. Okay,
good memory there.
Okay, so Yul Brynner's the star. Steve McQueen's the up and coming, and it's only Steve McQueen's 3rd, 4th movie.
Yeah,
and he's backing up Yul Brynner. So he only has, in the whole movie of the Magnificent Seven, they only give Steve McQueen maybe 20 lines, and it's a 2-hour movie, and Steve McQueen's got 20 lines. Okay, because it's an action flick. Okay, he's diving under horses, he's pulling out his gun, he's fanning his 6-shooter. So he wants to upstage Yul Brynner. Okay, and this is macho-y macho, man versus man. Yeah. So on that, at the beginning of that Magnificent Seven, do you remember They want to bury an Indian in a white man's grave. Okay. Well, anyway, the Indian is to be buried in a white man's cemetery. And there's 10 guys there saying, you ain't putting old Joe, the Indian, that cemetery's for white men. And Yul Brynner says, let's get this guy buried. Well, nobody will drive the hearse. So Yul Brynner says, I'll drive that hearse if that's the only thing. So Yul Brynner jumps on the hearse and he looks at Steve McQueen, and Steve McQueen says, I'll go with you. So the whole time they're driving up this, and Steve McQueen has no dialogue. So he takes off his hat and he's shading his eyes, because the sun's in his eyes, and that wasn't to be in the movie. He takes out his gun, and like all gunmen, he's rolling the cylinders, checking to see how many bullets he's got. And one other thing he does, fixing his shirt and all this, and he does these 3 things in all this dead time. And at the end of the day shooting, Yul Brynner goes to the director and says, hey, what's with all this crap? This isn't in the movie.
Yeah.
And it made it a better movie. The director liked it, and it killed all that dead time.
Yeah.
But Steve McQueen was going to get noticed.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
See, those are things that people don't realize about acting, that it's more than, knowing your lines or whatever.
Props.
Oh, and how you carry yourself, how you
pen.
walk.
I'm sitting here right here. Ink pen, that's another one. In
Yeah,
movie,
yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, the pen's mine.
Oh, I thought you gave that to me. I thought you gave this out of appreciation. I thought this was out of appreciation.
It'd be from Fred Dorso from the Knights of Columbus.
No, I can't take your Knights of
I'll
Columbus.
give it to you.
No,
He
no,
might
no,
get
that's
to you.
okay. No,
I
don't deserve it.
It's yours.
No.
I'm giving it to
Well, Freddie, being a disc jockey your whole life, you had to do some things on the air to keep the audience interested.
Calling stretch. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And a downtime for some reason.
Yeah. Well, that's like this whole podcast is trying to fill 2 hours of downtime. Is what this is. This is just practice for me. It's the whole show is let's see how far.
Is that why you're looking at me, giving me this this gesture? Keep talking, JT.
I'm not saying you're nuts. I'm not giving you that. That's a different rolling of the finger. That means just keep going, man.
You remind me of my first sales job when we wanted to sell. For a little bit in my life, I was a Tin Man. Anybody know what a Tin Man is?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they had the movie.
Vinyl. The Danny DeVito. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I spent 2 years selling siding. Now, in the early days, it was aluminum siding.
Yeah.
That's why they call it Tin Man.
Right.
But by the time I got there, it was all vinyl siding. But anyway, so one salesman going into a house, you got dead time. You talk, they talk, you talk, they talk. We got to close this deal. So when we had somebody we thought was an old farmer, had 60, 70 cows, he had the milk in the morning, we'd send 2 salesmen. And we got to keep this guy busy.
The old double team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So one salesman's talking, working on him. Hey, you got to sign this contract now. And the other salesman, hey, we got this sale's only good for midnight tonight. Tomorrow you won't get the same price.
Yeah.
So that's what we know about dead time.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and you know what? Who else was a famous aluminum siding salesman? What comedian was a famous aluminum siding salesman?
You got something I don't know. A comedian who sold aluminum siding.
No, not Jerry Lewis. Rodney Dangerfield.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I could see him.
He tells a story about he'd be on Ed Sullivan.
Okay.
Like on Saturday night or whatever night. It was Sunday night.
Yeah.
And then Monday, that's the guy. He's selling aluminum siding.
You on TV last night.
And they're looking at him like, hey, where do I know you from?
Wow.
Yeah.
When that first came, you got to remember, people just painted houses for 1,000 years.
Right.
Okay. And when you go to Williamsburg, you're seeing those 300-400-year-old houses where George Washington, they're already got 37 coats of paint on a house that was built back in 1780. Okay. So now they got this thing called aluminum siding. That's basically the first coverage ever. Boy, when that hit, maybe about 1953, 54.
Right.
That was like, oh my God. That was like a VD player or a CD player or something.
Yeah. Right.
We got to get aluminum siding.
Absolutely.
That was wild.
Okay. Now this is for old fart Youngstown people.
Okay.
General Home Improvement. Do you remember the jingle for General Home Improvement?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Something about general gets it done. I can just give pieces.
For free estimate.
There's the number.
No obligation.
Yeah,
general
the numbers in there.
When you call 792-6581.
General gets it done. Yeah.
I'm really happy to be here.
Well, well, you wait a minute.
So give us a couple of famous advertising jingles that pop into your mind. Like,
well, I first of all, I can think of Ron Dante. We have to have him someday because he did the Coke. He did a whole bunch of them. He was a studio singer. He was the Archies. The Archies was Paul Vance and the Hypocrites wrote the hits. And the other was Tracy, who was also the Cufflinks. And he did a lot of jingles, and he made lots of money, millions of dollars, by being a jingle writer and singer because he had this wonderful falsetto.
Who does the RC Cola? You remember Me and My RC Cola?
Is it right?
Very famous country and western singer.
That one. Janie Fricke.
Okay, way to go.
I met Janie Fricke a few years ago.
Well, I saw her perform out at the Trumbull County Fair. Is that where you met her?
Might have been her Packard Music Hall. I think it might have been her and Steve Warner together. I think it was a real good.
Okay, when I was a Tin Man, we had a booth set up. So you're strolling, trying to eat your sausage, and we're set up and showing the siding on the Midway.
Yeah.
And we're working Trumbull County Fair.
Yeah.
And Jenny Fricke's playing in the grandstand. And got a free ticket to go in and see.
Yeah, I think I was a little bit before your Tin Man days. I think I was there later than your Tin Man.
Well, no, this was in 84, 85.
Oh, okay. Well, then I was probably there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you had a way to get out and see her at the grandstand.
I emceed all the shows.
Okay. Well, this was 84 and 85.
Me and Boots Bell.
Okay.
Me and Booter.
84 and 85 is when she was.
Yeah, that's probably about right. So, I mean, do you think of any commercials like that were big in the Philadelphia area or something that just had that jingle that you automatically remember?
I can't think of any up the top. I finally got the stage and I can't think of one.
Bucky the Beaver.
Okay, well, we got to move on. Nothing there. Okay, how about you, JT?
I just remember Bucky the Beaver selling Ipana toothpaste back in the.
Yes.
You remember Ipana, right? Okay, Bucky.
Did you know we learned in school that they would package toothpaste and many products in red, white, and blue for patriotism?
Okay.
That would help sell the product.
Well, paste came later.
Crest and Colgate's, all of them were red, white, and blue packaged.
Okay, maybe before you were even a child, there was no toothpaste. Okay, cowboys used tooth powder. So
I thought they just used
the Indians used the stick.
Indian stick. Okay.
But no, before I'm saying the predecessor of toothpaste, you would wet the toothbrush and just like talcum powder or baby powder, you would dump on your brush.
Yeah, my mother used to talk about that.
Yeah.
See, Father Jimmy, that's why you should be happy to be here, just so you could listen in person to JT. So if you don't get a lot in edgewise, you still have the privilege of being here and to listen to this stuff.
What can I say? I've been praying all week, and my dreams have been fulfilled.
You're sitting here with me, and you got JT. I mean, what more could you ask for?
My mother got her first.
I drove 410 miles for this.
And it cost him a pen too.
Oh.
It cost me my good
special
pen.
Yeah. It's a very.
I got the Knights of Columbus
That's
pen.
from Frederick Dorso, who brought
nice
me
pen.
back to the Knights of Columbus. I'm back active, 4th degree.
Do you really want to?
Really? Yeah, it's yours. I mean,
are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, so
what else? You were talking about the Knights of Columbus.
Yes, Knights of Columbus.
Okay. You know how teachers will tell you that they work in some areas where the kids are very poor, and that in the old days they had to get pencils or paper for the kids.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
My mother, born in 09, in 1919, she goes to grade school, 2nd grade, and she had never brushed her teeth at the age of 8 or 9. Come from the old country, born, came from the Ukraine. In 1919, the school teacher brought like 25 or 30 toothbrushes and gave each 9-year-old a toothbrush.
How wonderful.
How about that?
Yeah.
So right shortly after World War I, my mother got a toothbrush and a small tube of toothpaste from her teacher back in 1919.
Well, my mom apparently was 9 years older than your mother. She was born 1900.
Okay.
And died in 87. I buried my mom. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. And my father had died when I was 2 months old.
Now, see, when Freddie went to school, he got an electric toothbrush from his.
You know what? I was never a fan of the electric toothbrush.
You got to get. Oh no, I
Really?
get one every year. I get a new electric toothbrush.
No kidding.
Oh, you got to get on that. Where you been?
Really?
Yeah. When you learn how to use them,
Yeah.
you'll never go back to because you don't do anything. Okay, normally you're going like so. This you just go, you're just going over the tooth, man.
Oh, okay.
You know, there's no movement. The brush is doing all the,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
like waxing the
All
floor.
right. Wow.
Boy, these people tonight listening, what a wealth of information they're getting.
That's what I'm saying. You know what? I didn't know if he was hogging the mic or if you were just in awe of all this information, and it was taking you a little time, like for me, to process this all and to soak it all in.
Pardon me once. Hail Mary, full of grace.
Well, he may
The
be
Lord
the
is with
rock
thee.
and roll. He
Blessed
may be
art
the
thou
rock and
among
roll
women.
priest.
I gotta
Okay.
go to prayer mode.
But I am the master, the king of totally useless information.
And I forgot you were a Yuki also.
Right, yeah,
you were a brother.
100%.
Don't forget that. Don't
100%.
forget that.
So we
All
have
right,
to all
so-
say
okay.
together, Slava Isusu Christu.
Slava Naviki is
Bohu.
the okay.
Glory to him forever. to
Okay,
God.
now let's focus here a little bit on Father Jimmy.
Okay.
If we
Yes.
can, if you don't mind.
Oh, I'd like to.
Can I give Father Jimmy the floor here for a little
I'd like to dig into his Pennsylvania rock.
Oh, okay. So, anyways, he drove 400 plus miles to be here
From
today.
Fort Dix and McGuire Air Force Base.
Right. So, what were you thinking about that you were going to bring to the show today? What was like you're thinking about the show? I'm probably sure you were just fixed on this whole show, and
I couldn't
you
sleep.
probably
I couldn't sleep.
envisioned how this was going to go down. So, in your vision of this show, how was it looking, or where were we? Where
The
were we?
past
heading?
year, I become very close. There was a fellow named Jack Gardner, and he played with a group called a reenactment Beatles group, and they were pretty decent. I saw him at a horse farm. You're speaking about horses earlier,
Yeah.
right? And they're set up to help veterans with PTSD. So I went there.
I've seen.
And I didn't partake of that because I've never been on a horse in my life. But I met this group, and we took a picture of theirs. And well, then it turns out months later, 6 months later, I'm in a restaurant, a Turkish restaurant in Mount Holly, New Jersey, South Star Diner. And he comes up, this Jack Gardner, and he says, I'm very close to Vinnie Martell of the Vanilla Fudge. I said, oh, my God, I remember breaking that record at WSCR in Scranton.
A big
Number
record.
2 rocker. So next thing I call him, and we become the dearest. I mean, the dearest of closest friends. He's from the Bronx. He's Italian. Oh, let me tell you, when he's on my show, I do a show at WWDB. He came on with his wife Peg. You could cut his accent. I mean, you could cut it. It's beautiful, beautifully sick. I thought it was absolutely wonderful. Like 30 Torton Pip.
Yeah.
So we became friends, and he did 3 of my shows on WWDB Rock and Roll Reveille, Saturdays 4 to 5 p.m., 8:60 a.m. And you can download www.dbam.com. Anyway, we became good friends, and I told him I was coming here, and would he like to join us? And he's doing gigs with the Fudge. I saw him about 5 or 6 months ago in a little tiny theater, but the acoustics were a knockout. Sellersville Theater, which I did not MC. I usually MC the shows there, even now at my age. And the group was a knockout. Carmen and the bass player and the organ player, forget about it. Keep me fantastic. So anyway, if we can, I'd like to bring on Vinnie Martell, and his wife is Peg Pearl, and she's accomplished. She sings like Janis Joplin, maybe as good, if not better. That's a hard
Wow,
thing, and
wow.
not a good thing to
That's
say. But
that's
she is
saying
good.
something.
She's really good. And anyway, if we're ready to go, I'd like to bring on Vinnie Martell.
Yeah. Let's
So
do that.
Let's see if he comes on here. If
Okay,
we can, Joseph.
So Vinny, Joe, if you're ready to get Vinny, that's good.
I was a
You
big
know what
fan.
though? For all those plugs for that radio show, and all he gives me is an ink pen. Now I don't
With a
feel
very
bad about
special
it.
knife from Columbus
I
ink
didn't.
pen.
Now I don't feel bad about the ink pen. I'm thinking.
Uh-uh.
Now I'm thinking that's it for
He-
all those free plugs and
Yeah.
ink pen. Oh,
Hey,
okay, yeah, thanks.
He made
Thanks,
some money
brother.
there.
Listen, this is
yeah,
a 30,000 watt AM FM station, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Come on.
Ooh,
I
30,000
don't know,
big
though.
watts.
This is the
AMFM.
Fast Freddy podcast.
I tell you, when that Vanilla Fudge came, when everybody is associated with "You Keep Me Hanging On." Okay,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many songs they
Well,
had.
the story is, but I'll let Vinny tell it. Somehow they were talking about, Vinny said to the rest of the boys, the fellas, look, they sing that too fast.
Yeah.
This is a love song. Wait a minute. There you are. You on the air with us, Vinny? Oh. Okay. Well,
They can't get
I'll text him
Oh, wait
right
a minute.
now.
I think he's on. I think he's
Okay.
on the line.
No, that's him. That's him right there. That's it.
I think that's that's
Okay.
this.
Well, hey, we'll get him on.
Okay.
All right.
In the meantime, how about let's try to get Tony Vitalik. Can you do that?
Well,
for
wait.
me,
Let's
Joe? Oh, yeah.
wait. He got
I'd like
this
Vinny.
call in. Let's
Okay.
wait for Vinny
Okay,
first.
sure.
Yeah, because he's got the call in.
Let me send him a note right now on the phone.
But that song is like a classic.
It's the first psychedelic rock song.
Yeah. They take the Supremes, that's who cut the song. I'm assuming that song was written in Detroit by one of them guys.
Dozier,
Yeah, exactly. That group of three. And they take that big hit of the Supremes. And I remember I'm in Mickey's bar. I'm 18 years old. I'm on Market Street. And Mickey Williamson covers You Keep Me Hanging On.
Wow.
With 7 pieces. He's got 7 pieces.
And the Vanilla Fudge version or the Supremes version?
The Vanilla Fudge.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you were in Mickey's. We're in Mickey's bar in 68.
Yeah.
Those people are not going to take the Supremes version there.
Right.
So the local band covers the Vanilla Fudge version, and we're all and they got
Hammond B3.
The
Hammond B3 makes that whole song.
And the lights, the strobe lights going off and on, off and
Set me
on.
free,
Why don't you say? Yeah, I mean we're let's not embarrass. 20 years ago, I'd give you a run for that song, but I'm not going to embarrass myself with that "Set Me Free"
So
thing.
you let me embarrass myself.
Hey, I made the loop.
Hey, you guys can let me do that.
I made the loop.
Job.
Hey, when I was a kid, I'd catch pigeons.
Oh, we got Vinny. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fast Freddie podcast, along with JT, our oldies expert, and the one and only rock and roll priest, Father Jimmy Drucker from the East Coast. And now with us is the one and only Vinny Martell from the Vanilla Fudge. Vinny, good to talk to you again, man. How you doing, brother?
If you are satisfied with your message, press 1 to listen to your message. Press 2
we
to
talked
delete
about-
and
we left him a
re-record.
good message.
Press 3
Listen,
to
Vinny,
continue
your voice has
recording where you left
changed.
off.
I don't know what happened.
Remember we talked about you got to have something to fill downtime.
Right.
Listen, if you give me the number, Joseph,
Are
I'll
you
have him
still
call
there?
in
If you
here.
are satisfied,
All right.
But
What's the number here? Can you tap it in there? Put it right there.
Oh, I don't.
Okay.
What is our number? I usually have to look on the screen. It's usually on
Okay.
the screen.
Anyway, we're rolling along here. We're going
Yeah,
to page 2.
No,
All
I
right.
mean, this is no.
Want me to try again, or want me to do the other one?
Yeah, go ahead. Try again. Or do you want him? You know what? What's our number? I'll just have him.
What's the number here, Joseph? Here.
I wonder
Okay.
is
We probably. Yeah. Okay.
It-
330.
Oh, wait a minute.
595.
Hang on.
You know what? I've been
330.
here for years and I could never remember
330.
the number.
595.
what's wrong with you?
A lot. You want to fill some time? Okay.
But yeah,
Yeah.
we got a couple hours. Let's what's wrong with you, Freddie? Did I tell you I saw Butella just a year ago? There's a picnic grounds in Vienna called Strassmeyer.
Yeah, I remember Strassmeyer as well.
Okay, so a year ago, myself and 5 people from Holy Trinity go to Strassmeyer 4:00 in the afternoon,
Yep.
and we're having lamb and
Beer, highballs, and lamb.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
double
we're-
highballs.
yeah, we're
All right.
listening to
Yeah.
Croatian
Yeah.
music.
Tambourines.
Yeah, Tony Batella's
And-
Croatian.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
he's in town. Okay, this is the 4th of July. We're having this picnic at Strathmeyer's, and in comes Tony Butella. And everybody wants to like flock him. And he's going like, I'm happy to see everybody, but I'm here with my family and I just want to like chill out for a little bit. So we gave him his privacy,
Yeah.
But he blended in with the people like, hey, I'm Croatian. You're all
Well,
Croatian.
let me tell you my story. I'm a very good friend of Octavio's at Own Station Square Restaurant.
Right. I'm a Belmont.
And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, this is how good a man Octavio is. He invites his closest friends to enjoy a meal on him, family style.
Sure.
And they usually bring a bottle of wine, a great bunch of people, including Ray Mancini usually comes, and
Boom, boom.
Octavio, boom, boom. And so anyway, Tony was in town. When he comes into town, he's from Sharon. It doesn't have a car, so I'd have to pick him up.
Sure.
And I drive him there, and he meets everybody the first time. And everyone's enjoying his company. And I think he was with Susan, his friend. And we're talking. So finally, he started singing.
Mhm.
So I started trying harmonizing. And I stink at harmony. He said to me, right in front of every 30 people, Father, you're flat. You're
Yeah.
singing flat.
Yeah,
So
he ain't
of course, he nerded me out. So we're driving home. I said, Tony, don't you think you could have been a little more sensitive that, I'm with my friends. I'm taking you to dinner. You're my guest. He said, Father, you were flat.
See what you don't
You were singing
understand.
flat.
Okay, but what you don't understand, he's a professional.
He is impeccable.
And I don't mean to offend you, Father, but he's not going to let his reputation suffer for your voice.
Now,
Even in
see,
the public
now, if you were on the same level as JT, though,
Yeah.
when we were with Dave Revels,
Oh, yes, of the persuasion.
when we were with him, and he was talking about
We're getting your red blazer, so
and you know, and I it was amazing that JT jumped right in there with like under the boardwalk and
hold on, I'm coming.
Hold on, I'm coming. I think they signed him up right there. I think they signed him to a recording.
All I need
contract.
is a little me, you know.
Yeah.
But no, I can understand.
Yeah, especially see, you're on that level too, where I'm sure that if you were singing, you didn't need Father Jimmy here off key to throw you off.
Hey, in show business, you know what the hook is?
Yeah.
When you're out on stage and your band, they put the hook.
Yeah.
Chuck Barris, the Gong
I
Show.
put the hook on Father so quick he wouldn't know what happened. So
Chuck Barris, did you know he wrote Palisades Park?
Yeah, I did.
The Gong Show.
Okay, who was the singer?
Well, that was Freddie Boom Boom.
Okay, I'm testing you.
From Philadelphia.
Freddie,
he's from Philadelphia.
Where's Freddie Boom Boom from?
He's from Revere, Massachusetts.
Okay, well, you are good. Now, see, you can hang on rock and roll.
He looks like he's an old guy, but
sadly,
he's still got it.
Sadly, his wife just died. So.
Okay.
He might not be that good of a singer, but I'll tell you what, he could.
Why do you think I was a manager, a publisher, songwriter? And that's it. I was behind the scenes taking care of everybody. Somebody who's calling me.
I'm impressed. Maybe it's the guy you're trying to call.
No, somebody called Kelly. I don't know what it is. From New Jersey area code.
But
maybe that's him. Maybe that was him calling me.
Yeah.
But when I'm doing karaoke, I don't like somebody bringing me down.
You wouldn't want him, sitting there like
not unless I interview him first.
Right.
Vinny? Yes. We're going to use this number. We're going to call because you're on my phone right now. We have Vinny on right now. Hold on a second. Joseph, I'm going to give you.
Wow, it's so low, this phone.
Okay, well, whatever. You sound good. Hang on a second.
All right.
I'm going to hang up. Can you call in? Do you have the phone number to call in, Vinny? I gave you the phone number.
Calling in your number, no?
No, I gave you a phone number of the radio station. So look on your phone, on your cell phone, and call that number. It'll be the easiest way.
See, this is the stuff you see.
It begins with 330.
That you don't.
What's the number? 330.
Okay.
I just texted it to you like 30 seconds ago.
595-1600.
330-595-1600. 590.
It's 330-595-1600. 595-1600. Yep. Now, see, this is the behind the scenes stuff that you don't really see out there. You know,
we planned all this.
An inside look.
It looks like we don't know what we're doing. We planned all this.
Right.
Will you hand me that booze over there?
You after seeing this, you're breaking my heart. You know that.
Why is that?
Well, I thought you guys had it so cool. You know,
mean like Hank Williams?
Everybody was so slick. Everything was so polished. I didn't know you had a little fuba. You know.
Okay, Joe, how do we answer the phone?
No, he should be.
He's calling us right now.
Good. That's going to be fun because he's a wonderful man. He plays guitar. He's with a group now called Suitcase Murphy, and I've become an 82-year-old Suitcase Murphy groupie. Everywhere they're at, I'm going to see him.
My question
and they love me, and they've been on the radio with me
on
on
the
show.
Fingers hold it.
Just all the way loud.
All right.
Hello, Vinny. Vinny.
Now it is.
Hey, Vinny, you're on the radio with Fast Freddie and Johnny. So I'm going to let Fast Freddie take over as the host of the show. I love you.
Hey, Vinny, good.
Thank you.
Hey, Vinny, good to talk to you again. And of course, Vinny Martell,
you too, Fast Freddie.
One of the main guys of the Vanilla Fudge, which was really kind of a groundbreaking band at the time that you guys hit. But before we get started, about a month or two ago, before he had some heart problems, I was at a concert from Dave Mason from Traffic, and Dave did a real nice shout out to Vanilla Fudge. And they were talking about when they played with you guys, when Traffic played with you guys, and they had a poster from the show up on the big screen.
Like a montage.
Yeah.
Right?
And then they put on a big picture of you and the band.
Can you hear us, Vinny?
Yes. So in other words, you had, Mark works with Dave Mason sometimes.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah. Yeah, we're here. Yeah. So anyways, I don't know if you caught that part, though, but with Dave Mason, and they did a nice tribute to Vanilla Fudge, and they did Keep Me Hanging On. They said a lot of nice things about you guys, and they showed the concert poster when you and Traffic played at some gig somewhere, and they also showed the band, and your big mug was right up there on the big screen.
Wow. Oh, how cool is that?
And I took a picture of it, and I'm going to send it to you.
Tell him where it was.
And it was at
Thank you. Thank you.
It was at the Robbins Theater in Warren, Ohio. And I'll tell you what, Dave put on an excellent show, man. I mean, he was belting out those Traffic songs, and do you remember playing with them anywhere with Traffic?
I remember we did some stuff with them, but couldn't tell you the venue, that stuff. But yeah, we worked with everybody back in those days, man. All the big bands we worked with.
Yeah, now, I know that Led Zeppelin opened for Vanilla Fudge on some of their early shows, and I think you even gave them like some tips for performing and that sort of thing. Is that how the story goes?
Yeah. What happened is they wanted to break into the United States, and we were at the top of the heap at that point. We had great management, and the management worked it out with Peter Grant, their manager, and we had them open up for us. For concerts west, out in the Midwest, and we did a whole bunch of shows that they opened for us. And yeah, we did. When Plant first came to the United States, he invited me and Mark Stein up to the hotel, and he showed us he had a Victrola. I don't know if he brought it over from England or how he got it, but he brought a whole bunch of his records from England, and he was showing us all the stuff that they were doing. And we would tell him, he had to move more on stage because he was standing still when he first came over here and started singing with them. And he wasn't like moving around. And we were giving him the hints, so you got to move, you got to make it more action-packed and stuff like that. So they took us up on it. And, in the meantime, we were kind of ready to take a break from each other. We were getting into like little fist fights or whatever. And they were just coming up on the scene. So we took a hiatus, and they ended up taking off and became so big. But that's rock and roll,
Yeah, I hear you. Vanilla Fudge too, when you guys were really peaking, now you were one of the early bands. First of all, you're like one of the early psychedelic / heavy metal bands.
I was considered the first psychedelic rock record.
Because you guys, I think at the time, when you look back at like what was considered kind of heavy metal, it was probably you guys, Deep Purple, Cream, Zeppelin, and maybe Black Sabbath. Right. And that was like the handful of bands that were really considered the real heavy bands at the time. And you guys were at the forefront of that.
Oh, I know. It was really just some trip that we took with the rock and roll world. It was great. We had such great opportunities came our way. And of course, we toured with the great Jimi Hendrix, 13 dates in a row, and Janis Joplin, and I'll tell you, everybody. We worked with everybody that was happening at the time around the world. Jeff Beck, Edwin Hawkins singers in Flushing, Queens. I'm telling you, it was like a potpourri of rock and roll life. It was really something.
Oh, by the way, Vinny,
coming down from some of that stuff.
Vinny, tell everybody about your book, as he wrote a book.
It's called Psychedelic Solo. It's available on my website, Vince Martell, MARTELL.com. And it's really Marte Mucci is my real name, but I've been using Martell for a long time now. So VinceMartell.com, and it's called Psychedelic Solo. And it's my whole life story growing up in the Bronx, New York, and going to Catholic school and then some public school and joining the Navy. And then playing music in Florida, then coming up and meeting guys that became the Pigeons, which was me, Mark Stein, Tim Bogert, and Joey Brennan. And then Joey was off to California, so we recruited Carmine, and then we got our record deal. We met our management people, and they had a bunch of record companies come down to the Action House in Long Island, New York, to listen to us. And we had the great Shadow Morton producer who did Walking in the Sand, leader of the pack, Janis Ian. He heard us. He loved the operation of Keep Me Hanging On. And we ended up signing a deal and, with Atlantic, which were on the ATCO label, which is a subsidiary of Atlantic. And the thing just blossomed and took off. We had a great lawyer. We had just great business people. Great.
Now, when you mention all that stuff, now, this is at the time when you guys were breaking, Led Zeppelin and the other bands that I mentioned, Deep Purple, things were getting harder and more psychedelic. Now, at what point did you guys decide to say, hey, listen, we got to get into this heavier psychedelic stuff? I mean, were you playing that stuff all along, or were you playing like, Beatles, Stones, and then you decided to, head off in that direction? Or what was it that made you head into that harder and psychedelic direction?
Well, yeah, we're, from a New York area, and there was a whole New York, Long Island sound going on. And there was this group called the Vagrants, which Leslie West from Mountain was the guitarist in it. And they were doing production numbers. And we heard them, making a big deal out of all the tunes. And we were doing rhythm and blues, R&B before that. In fact, we were backing up a lot of the local black groups that were coming through at the Choo Choo Club in Garfield, New Jersey. On Tuesday nights, we backed up the Marvelettes and the Shirelles and a whole bunch of them. Every Tuesday was a big deal thing. We'd back up all these groups. Screaming Lord Such was there. And so we were doing R&B, and this guy came into the club. He worked for our manager. His name is Shelley Finkel. And he ended up we had Mark Stein's father was at the club and talked to this guy, Shelley, and said, why not give the boys a shot at this club, the Action House in Long Island, where the Vagrants were a big deal. And we did that. So we were already doing, once we heard that group, and there was others, the Rich Kids and the Illusions, there's a whole bunch of groups, the Rascals. We're doing heavy stuff. We were doing big deal arrangements. That's when we decided to do that. And so we got playing at the Action House, and the Vagrants didn't show up. Their truck broke down or something, and the management heard us doing. We had 4-part harmony, and everybody was a good player. And we had these beautiful arrangements that we had worked out, which ended up being our first album. And they fell in love with us, and the management wanted us, and Shadow Morton heard us, and so we were doing that kind of all the way through. We went from R&B into big production on this heavy.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
And I'll tell you, whenever I think of You Keep Me Hanging On, I think the Hammond B3 organ really takes that song to a different level. What are your thoughts in general on the Hammond B3 organ? I mean, I think that's one of the best instruments out there. What are your thoughts on the Hammond B3?
Oh, I love it. I grew up with my sister played organ, played classical piano from when I was very small, and we ended up with a C3, which is a church model, same as a B3, just a different body of wood that it's in. So I grew up hearing and falling in love with the sound of the B3 and the C3 Hammond organs. And as a matter of fact, I'm doing gigs with a guy named Robbie Robinson, who's Frankie Valli's music director. We're playing in Edwardsville, Illinois this Friday night, the 1st of November, and he's a great organ player. He plays a B3, and it's a great band, and we're doing some hanging on in the show, and we're doing some Hendrix and some Ticket to Ride with the Fudge did on our first album, and a bunch of other things. But I love the sound of the B3. It's fat. It gives it a big sound, and it mesmerizes you when you hear that B3 kick in.
Oh, yeah. One of my favorite guys, of course, was Greg Allman. I think the Allman Brothers, they just got that bluesy sound out of that Hammond B3.
Boy, didn't they? I love the Allman Brothers. Everything that they did. In fact, I work with a couple of bands out of Jersey now. One of them's called Suitcase Murphy, and there's 2 keyboard players in the band, and we're working on some Allman Brothers stuff. And yeah, definitely, Allman Brothers kicks it with the B3. Greg Allman is great, and his vocals too.
And then another band too that was like a contemporary of yours, Deep Purple. I mean, I think they really brought the keyboard to the forefront. And as a matter of fact, I saw an interview not too long ago with, I believe it was not Ronnie Montrose. Now I'm having Richie Blackmore. And he had a lot of nice stuff to say about Vanilla Fudge too, and how they kind of had an influence on Deep Purple.
Oh yeah, I heard that. I hear that all the time. Yeah, Richie Blackmore loved Vanilla Fudge. We did a gig with them up in Canada in probably 68 or 69, and I remember it was a little funny thing happened because first of all, he had Richie Blackmore had a red 335 like they used on the Vanilla Fudge first album, and I had sold mine. And I was interested in buying his, but he wasn't up for selling it. But what was funny at the gig was that it was at some college, and we had like 3,000 people in the audience, and everybody, all the kids were sitting down on the floor in front of the stage. And one of the guys from the school, I guess he was drunk or stoned or something, and he had he worked out. He had a real good build. So he comes up to while we're playing Take Me for a Little While and starts, he had no shirt on. He's flexing his muscles. And our road manager ran out from behind and pushed him right into the audience. The guy went flying into the audience. We never missed a beat. We just kept playing the tune. So I remember that gig with them guys.
That's pretty wild. Now, also, you had mentioned two legends before too, that you worked with Jimi Hendrix and you worked with Janis Joplin. I'm always interested to hear what people had to say about Jimi Hendrix, because I was just a little too young to see Jimmy live. And I hear everybody that talks about seeing Jimmy, and he was just like a creature from outer space or something. Was he definitely on like another planet, but yet down to earth? What are your impressions of Jimi Hendrix, or your meeting with him, or how did that go?
Oh, that was great. Jimi Hendrix was like the highlight, as far as I'm concerned, of my rock and roll career when we were touring back then, because he was like in another realm. He really was. He was like, came out of the looking glass. He was like somebody you'd see in a mirror. He played left-handed, and he had great stage moves, great stage presence. He looked great up on his stage. A fantastic player, and a great drum and bass player, Mitch Mitchell and Noel Redding, and just complimented him. So he was the headliner. Was originally their touring was Soft Machine, Heir Apparent opening, then Soft Machine, and then Jimi Hendrix, and we wanted to get on the tour. So then it became Heir Apparent, Soft Machine, Vanilla Fudge, Jimi Hendrix, and then they had to drop Heir Apparent for some reason. I don't know if the business thing, there was too many groups to have a concert, so it became Soft Machine, then Vanilla Fudge, and we did a string of 13 dates in a row out in the West Coast again. We did Red Rocks, Colorado. In fact, we got a nice writing. I remember the promoter, Barry Fay from the Red Rocks there, he said, we had gotten a better write-up in the newspaper than Jimmy did. It was just one of the magical nights. We were doing Season of the Witch. He said the sun was going down, and you couldn't hear anybody still in the place, and it was all surrounded by rocks like a canyon.
Right.
And we did that, and so, but Jimi Hendrix was fantastic. We actually went over a little better than him. He supposedly wanted the Fudge to get off the tour after that show, but we had very heavy management and stuff, and they didn't go for that. So we stayed on the tour. But Jimi Hendrix was just a fantastic showman, and in fact, I put together a Jimi Hendrix, it's not a tribute to him, because I don't look like Jimi Hendrix or sing like him.
Yeah.
But I can play what he plays. If I use my Strat. So I have a trio. It's called We Remember Jimmy. We just put this together with our current management, and it includes Pete Bremy, the bass player from the Vanilla Fudge right now. Our original bass player, Timmy Bogert, had passed away a couple of years ago. Pete had stepped into his shoes, does a great job. So that trio is myself, Pete Bremy. It's also T.C. Tolliver from Wendy O and the Plasmatics.
Wow.
And great drummer. And if anybody wants to see the show, we just played the Black Box out in Boca Raton, Florida, last October 4th. But then we did the Iridium in New York City, Sunday, October 6th. And all you got to do, if anybody wants to see it, is put in We Remember Jimmy Iridium. If you put that in, it should come up. It's the whole show. It's the warm-up before we're tuning up and going over that kind of stuff. And then it's the whole show, and then it's talking to some of the people afterwards. I had a couple of camera guys video the whole thing.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, but Jimmy had, anybody can catch it whenever they want. We remember Jimmy Iridium. But Jimi Hendrix was a gentleman. I talked to him when we toured. I even did a jam session with him one night because at the scene at New York City, Steve Paul's scene. Steve Paul was Johnny Winter's manager, and he had this club called The Scene on West 46th Street off 8th Avenue, New York City. And everybody would gather there if they weren't touring or in town, if they were in town and for like a night off. So I went down there one night and Jimmy's jamming out, and everybody wants to jam, and Buddy Miles was there, Jack Cassidy. Yeah. So anyway, I was there, and at the 4 o'clock in the morning, I probably got there about midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. About 4 in the morning when they closed the club, Eddie Kramer, Jimmy's engineer, was also there, and he says, "Let's go to the record plant. I got I got the keys. We'll run the machines." So everybody gathered together. What was it? Maybe about 30 people or something.
Yeah.
All walked down to 44th Street, made a right, walked down west to where the record plant was, went in, and we got set up. And Jimi Hendrix tells me to, start the solo, whatever I wanted to do. So I got into like a slow blues solo. So there's a recording out there that I don't know who was too stoned, who was too drunk, whatever, to ask for a copy of that stuff.
Right.
But there's something floating out there with me and Jimi Hendrix and whoever else was playing, Jack Cassidy and Buddy Miles. So, I got along great with him. He put something in my book. He told me one time, if the Vanilla Fudge ever break up, let him know.
Wow.
I mean,
that had to be magical. Everybody that I talk to about Jimmy always has these fantastic stories, and he was just like, there was just something about him, man. He just had that magic about him, I guess, that aura. And everybody says the same thing, and that he was such a humble person and such a gentleman. That's what I always hear that people always say. Joe Walsh, a couple other people I talked to recently, and it was Mark Farner from Grand Funk said the same thing. And it's just like it was just something else, man. We're still trying to catch up to Jimmy right now.
Yes. I'm telling you, you got it exactly. You know it.
We gotta try to book you, Vinny, here at the Robbins Center.
Yeah, we're gonna have to try to get you in here now. Okay, and then you also mentioned Janis Joplin. Now, Janis was a heck of she was way ahead of her time and kind of a wild woman. What was like your interaction, or when you crossed paths with Janis Joplin?
Well, when we first worked with her, she was with the Big Brother and the Holding Company. And we did the Avalon Ballroom out in Frisco and Fillmore West. She had the Southern Comfort thing happening all the time whenever we were performing. I think she used that to relax and stuff like that. So we did a couple of shows with her that it was kind of like that. We also did, she was a pretty wild chick, and we did a thing called the Palm Beach Festival in I guess 1969, right?
Yeah.
You there? Okay, good. My phone is a little crazy sometimes.
That's okay. You're sounding fine.
It'll hang up sometimes. Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, okay, good. All right. So anyway, we did a show, and it was we had to fly out. It was like a Woodstock thing. We had to fly out from the hotel to the site on a helicopter, one of the big Huey helicopters.
Yeah.
So we all get in there. So it was Vanilla Fudge, and it was Johnny Winter was on the thing with us. And a funny thing with that, because they didn't close the helicopter door. So once you sit down, you're not going to get up.
Yeah.
Because if this thing turns, you don't want to go flying out. So you sit down, you buckle in. And our road manager, an English guy we had, takes Timmy's sneaker off, hangs it outside the helicopter door as if Timmy's going to go after his sneaker. Of course, he didn't. But anyway, that's just a little side crazy thing bands do. But Johnny Winter looks scared as anything, because everybody, Vanilla Fudge, we're all laughing, our manager's laughing, but he didn't. But anyway, we get to the site, and we're playing the show, and Janis Joplin comes up with Johnny Winter. They wanted us to back them up. They were both drinking at Southern Comfort. They were both lit pretty good.
Uh-huh.
In fact, very, very well lit, if I may say. And they came up and we backed them up on a blues tune. And so that's it. So my interactions with her were watching her perform, and she was just tremendous. Hold on one second.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll tell you what's up.
Okay, we also did we did the Spectrum in Philadelphia. I'm in Cherry Hill, right outside of Philadelphia, with Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin. I remember still, for some reason, that she had its blue dress on, and she's hanging over the stage singing to everybody and, wailing as she normally did. And she was just great. It had called the Spectrum. It had a revolving stage.
Uh-huh.
A great, great, great performer. And it was just a tremendous, tremendous experience to be with all these great people, great performers back then.
Yeah. Now, one of the legendary stories about Janis Joplin, when she played in Pittsburgh, probably right around that time. This was at a time when the scene at sports arenas and places like the Spectrum and the Mellon Arena in Pittsburgh and all the indoor sports arenas, the way that they were doing concerts was changing. And Janis was like the first act to come in there and bring in her own sound system. So the people there didn't know how to react to the sound system. And then the ushers and everybody wanted everybody sitting in their chairs. And they had assigned seats, and I guess it got tense, with the cops and everything. And finally, Janis told them, "Hey, you let these people up here, I'm going to quit playing, and you're going to have a riot on your hands." But there was that transformation and that acclimation period, and maybe you saw this out there somewhere too, where people weren't really sure how these kids were going to be able to act at a show or something. In Pittsburgh, anyways, they thought that they were going to sit in their seat and clap their hand. And Janis, at one point, the promoter wrote, was having sex with some guy in the back room. And it was just this free-for-all. And that really changed the way that concerts were done. And I don't know if you've seen any of that along the way, or just the transformation about how people would act at the show, or what you would do at the show, or if you came across some of these places where, like, the house rules where you're going to sit in your seat and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that happens in rock and roll. I guess back then, when they had the big sound systems and everybody wanted to get up close to the stage, and we did the Hollywood Bowl with Jimi Hendrix, and everybody came up to the stage, and they have a big moat with water in it in front of the stage, and some of the people were jumping in the water, and you got to be careful because you got all this amplification with this electricity, so you didn't want it to jump out and come running towards you. But that would happen. That happens a lot. I guess when things really augmented with the big sound systems. But they became a staple. Became sound system companies developed.
Yeah, right.
We still have that going now.
Yeah, I mean, even back in the day, you got to. Yeah, and even back in the day, you got to figure the Beatles, they were playing those stadiums. They were like the first bands that were playing these stadiums, and they were playing it through the PA system in the ballpark that they were doing the play-by-play by, right?
Take me out to the ball game.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, I saw. Yeah, the Beatles played Shea Stadium in New York early on, and I had taken the subway down there, and you could actually see from the subway stop, the elevated train, you could see into Shea Stadium. And I was able to see the Beatles a little bit, and all you heard was the kids yelling. You almost didn't hear the music. It was so, they were so into it. But that's what happens, man. That's rock and roll can do that. It's infectious.
Right. And that was one of the reasons that the Beatles even quit touring, because they felt that they weren't even being heard. They couldn't hear themselves playing on stage.
Wow, that's right. That's what happens. If everybody, I think since then everybody kind of matured a little bit and got to where they would get into the music more instead of all the yelling. But when it first came out with the Beatles and the Stones and all, that's the way it was. The kids were going crazy.
Absolutely.
Hi, Vinny. This is JT. How are you?
Good. How you doing, JC?
Good, buddy. Hey, Jim Morrison, The Doors. Did you ever play with him? Did you ever meet him? Were you ever in his presence? And what kind of guy was Jim Morrison, if you know him?
Well, we did a gig in Seattle, the Seattle Pop Festival, and it was a load of groups, and they were there. The Doors were there, and Jim Morrison just came off the stage and came like walking past us, and we all acknowledged him like that. He was smoking a cigar. And that's about the only thing that I really got a chance to with him. But we ended up doing gigs with Robbie Krieger and and
Ray.
Ray Manzarek. Later on, after Jim Morrison passed away, they ended up doing. We did something, I guess, in 1995 or something. We did actually, it was 2005. That's when it was. We did a gig with them up in Canada. We went all over the place with them, and they had. Let me see if my wife knows who the thing was. Who was the singer with the Ian from Ian something or other was the singer. He's an English guy from a group in England. He did a fantastic job. But so I didn't really get to know Jim Morrison on a personal level, but I did get to jam with them, talk, and get to know Robbie Krieger pretty good from that tour. We did a couple of jams. I sat in with them guys up on stage and that kind of a thing.
Okay,
another, he had. Go ahead.
My last question.
Go ahead.
A contemporary of yours at the same time you guys were at the top of your game was Felix Cavalier. And I was wondering if you met him, if you were in his presence and you ever had any good conversations with him.
Well, okay, let me answer it. But first, I just my wife got this up. The cult, Ian Astbury from the cult. And he was the guy that was singing. A fantastic job he did. The bass player that was who was the bass player's name? Phil Chen was a bass player. He worked with Rod Stewart.
Oh yeah,
okay.
He's since passed away. Great bass player. Laid down a groove. He was in the pocket all the time. And the drummer, I couldn't tell you his name, but he's another great player. A great band. Felix Cavalieri, great guy. He's from like New Rochelle, New York, which is right close to where I grew up in the Bronx.
Sure.
And I think his father was a dentist or something. But no, he's a great player. He was with the Rascals, as everybody knows. And we first saw them, the Rascals. First of all, I was playing music in Florida before I even came up and got into the Vanilla Fudge. I saw him. It's when I came out of the Navy. I mean, I heard them playing "Good Lovin'" down in Florida. I remember saying, "Wow, that was this cool sounding song." The way that they had that going. Then when I came up and we got together with the Pigeons and Judge on it to the Vanilla Fudge, we went to see them at the Phone Booth in New York City, and they knocked us out again. They had a great stage show. The great Dino Danelli, great drummer, and Eddie dancing around, great moves. Gene Cornish, great guitar player, ended up getting a similar amp to what he had because it had its unusual characteristics. It was one of the first transistor amps with two 15s. And, of course, the great Felix Cavalieri, who was doing most of the lead singing and the B3 playing, and he was using foot pedals. And they had a monstrous sound, a great. So they knocked us out. Once we saw them, Mark, I think that's when Mark said he had an M3 or something before that. I think right after that is when he said he's got to get a B3 after he heard Felix.
Yeah, Felix on the organ.
It's great, man.
Yeah, Felix on the organ. He didn't take a backseat to anybody on that organ. And Dino Danelli just died in the last 2 years, maybe. And when Dino was playing them drums and he was spinning the sticks and everything, man, what a great concert they would give. I saw them live, and they just blew my socks off, man.
Well, the same with us. I mean, we saw Dino Danelli. We had Joey Brennan was the drummer before we had Carmine. That's when we saw them, and Joey had a lot of moves that Dino had. Dino had this thing where he was like in a trance. He was looking, it was like a machine. He'd turn his head fast and twisting his sticks, and it was a show just to watch him. And that's what made them so great, was that you could watch any one of them, and it was like a show. But he was just a masterful drummer and a half. What a great drummer and what a great showman.
Yeah, well, he was a favorite.
He a lot of heads.
He was a favorite of Ed Sullivan. He was a favorite of Ed Sullivan, and Felix and the Cavaliers. I mean, his group was on the Rascals were on Ed Sullivan probably. I want to say like 6-7 times on Ed Sullivan's show on Sunday night.
Speaking of Ed Sullivan, Vinny was on Ed Sullivan. Yeah. I was just watching that clip the other day of Vanilla Fudge. What was your experience on Ed Sullivan? What was that like?
Oh, it was pretty good. Ed Sullivan was like a 3-day affair. The first day, you go in your regular street clothes and you stand around and they tell you where to stand, and they place their, little tape on the ground so they know where you're going to stand, and you talk through what you're going to do. The second day you go in and they do your full dress rehearsal. You dress the way you're going to do the show on Sunday. So in other words, the first day's Friday, the second day Saturday, you go in, you have your outfit on that you're going to wear, you play the song, and they record you and video and record the sound and record the videotape you. And then the third day when you do the show, they also are running concurrently while you're performing. Nobody sees this, but in the background, they're running these tape machines and the video machines so that if there's a mishap while you're playing live, somebody breaks a string or an amp goes off or something stops, they switch right to the recorded thing that you did the day before, and the public at home probably won't even notice the difference.
Hey,
the people in the audience will. So, and then he was a great guy. He was an ex-boxer, Ed Sullivan. We heard that he was a prize fighter for a while. He was a nice guy. He came in the back. He said hello to us before the show. He said hello to us when the show was over, or, thanks for being here, that kind of stuff. Great doing it. And everybody, once you're on that show, we were on there 2 times. It was tremendous.
Uh-huh. And did you notice like an uptick in popularity or record sales or anything? Did you notice some kind of spike?
Big time.
Uh-huh.
Big time. Yeah. Once you're on Ed Sullivan, that was like the biggest show. Now, I used to see the Ed Sullivan show when I was a kid at my grandmother's. We'd be over at my grandmother's in Fordham in the Bronx, having big macaroni dinner. The Italians, it's all day eating. It was like, It was fantastic food. I grew up with great. And we used to see the Ed Sullivan show, and it came on after there was like a circus show that came on first. This is like, I guess around 1950 or something like that, 52, 51. And Lincoln Mercury was the big commercial people for Ed Sullivan. And before then, it was the Dinah Shore Chevy show. But there was this circus program that was on first, and then Ed Sullivan came on, and we would watch it. Everybody in my family, everybody in New York was watching that show. So when we got on there, I was like all of a sudden a big star all over the place.
Yeah, I'll bet.
It was really a mind blower.
I'll bet your family really went nuts over that. They probably when they saw you on Ed Sullivan, to them that had to be, these guys have made it. Is there anything that they could go?
Yeah,
they're already made the Ed Sullivan show.
Yeah, like seeing the Pope.
Right. I would assume for your family that had to be a really big deal.
Oh, it really was. It really was. Everybody, I was like the big deal in the family. It was really something. So, but that's what that does for you. Once you get on TV to that level, and again, I got to thank the management, the people behind the scenes that are pulling the strings that nobody ever gives credit to. Thanks to them, they pulled the right strings, and they had. We did all the TV shows. We did Merv Griffin, Mike Douglas, Dick Cavett, Joey Bishop. David Frost. I'm telling you, we did all kinds of TV shows with a lot of people. And we played in Italy, did this. We were the only group from America. This thing was televised in Europe and South America. It was the biggest thing going in there. For some reason, they didn't televise it here in the States, but we were the only group from America. Number 2, we were the only rock and roll group. And number 3, we became one of the winners. It was us, the Elvis of France, and somebody else. And Telly Savalas was there in the audience. Then we had dinner with Domenico Modugno. This is,
Valari.
So he was there. Yeah, we all. Yeah, we had dinner with him. Volare, that guy, and it was just something else. The connections that our management had. That we were in such big deal places. We won the Golden Gondola, 3 winners, and we were one of the winners.
Wow. I was going to say that when you went through that list of shows that you were on, I was going to say you had to have some good management to keep you out like that. And those were all the biggest shows of the day. Those were, to be on that show, that's where you had to be. That's really incredible, if you ask me.
Me too. I'll tell you. Well, I think we were with Premier Talent, and they just, it's a whole, network of people in the business working together. We had a great lawyer, this guy Steve Weiss, who was also the Rascals lawyer, Bad Company's lawyer, Jimi Hendrix's lawyer, Led Zeppelin's lawyer. So we had the same lawyer as all the biggest groups had. So we had, and then we worked on ATCO, which was a subsidiary of Atlantic. So we met Ahmet Erdogan and Jerry Wexler. And then Scott Muni was playing our stuff on WNEW and
WMCA.
Nightbird.
Yeah, MCA and ABC.
Allison Steele was playing our stuff. She used to play every night at midnight. She'd play our version of Season of the Witch. So I'm telling you, we were all
number
over the
one
place.
female disc jockey in New York.
Yeah, that's crazy. And to get that, and on top of that, and to get that big airplay like that in New York too. I mean, when you're getting played in New York City, how could people in other towns refuse to play your records there, man? You know?
Oh man. And Shadow brought our acetate. It wasn't even a pressed album yet, record of Keep Me Hanging On to Scott Muni, which was his buddy. And they started playing the acetate over the air. And people were calling and saying,
oh, that is awesome. I'll tell you what, Vinny, you have had an amazing career. You know, I'll tell you what, man. I mean, you know, you guys are right up there with all the heavyweights, and you still have a lot of respect from you know, your peers. You know, I think you can't beat it, man. You know, do you feel good about it?
I think he got cut off for a second. It sounded like he got cut off.
All right,
call back in. Yeah,
call back in, Vinny. You got cut off. Or just why don't you shoot him a text too, so that he knows that he got cut off. Okay. But anyways, but talk about a career, you know.
Ed Sullivan's as big as it gets.
Yeah, and the one thing I was going to tell him too is when they were on Ed Sullivan, their performance looked really good. I mean, the way they did the lighting and stuff. Some of them they looked a little hokey, or they just looked so. But I thought theirs.
I'm surprised they recorded all that so that if something went wrong, they could just play the recording.
How about that? That's an interesting thing right there.
Cool.
So you're wearing the same clothes.
He says if you broke a string or something, nobody would notice.
Yeah.
These eyeballs would.
Well, they would just click that off, so you would just be seeing the you know. They would probably just flip to like once they were playing the keyboard player, and then just cut that camera off, and there you are. That's crazy. I would have never thought of that. And I guess that's how you do it in the big leagues. I guess that's why I'm in Youngstown, and they're on the Ed Sullivan show. Okay.
No, we all know there's people that lip sync.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
American Bandstand. A lot of times when Dick Clark would say, he's just with the record.
I mean,
he called me, Dick Clark, when I was at the number 2 rocker at WSCR in Scranton, PA. His staff, Ed Hall, I think it was his name, who was the producer of American Bandstand, says, "This Jim Drucker?" I said, "Yes, sir." You're at SCR? Yes. Listen, you're going to be on American Bandstand this week. You'll be this jockey of the week, and I want you to pick a song. I said, you know what? The song that's going to be a monster is Canned Heat, Up on the Road Again. So he said, listen, here's what you do. Say, hi, this is Jim Drucker. Hi, this is Jim Drucker. Say, this is Jim Drucker, WSCR Radio, Scranton, PA. This is Jim Drucker, Scranton, PA. And that's it. Then say, the song that I picked, it's going to be a monster hit. Yeah. And so I did, and they put all of it together, edited it. Next thing I'm on American Bandstand doing my show, live show, rocking 7 to midnight, doing the Teeny Bopper show. And I'm listening to me taped. That was all contrived to put together.
Yeah.
But Canned Heat owes me a meal.
I would say that to get that song on there for them. Oh, yeah, no doubt. We getting Vinny back on, or what's the story?
He was calling back in. I don't know if Joe's not there. Is Joe doing a stuff?
Yeah, Joe's here, but
okay. Yeah, Joey was calling right back.
Okay.
Remember they accused the Grassroots of
I love them. I received their show 5 times.
Great show, but they always accuse them of lip syncing.
Hello?
Hey, you back, Vinny?
There he is. He's back. Hey, Vinny, welcome back again. Vinny?
Hey, Vinny, you there?
Wow.
Oh, we're having some phone issues here.
Mr. Martell?
He figured even if he was proper in asking.
Yeah, the Grassroots, they got angry because, hey, we're musicians. We can play. We don't need to lip sync.
Yeah. And some of them are so obvious, but like I say, Vinny and the Vanilla Fudge, when I watched that, it looked like a concert performance.
Yeah.
You know,
I saw them
really
6
good.
months ago, and they were phenomenal.
Hey, Vinny, you there? You back?
Vinny, I hear noises.
Hello.
There you are. You're
Oh,
back
okay,
again,
you're back.
right?
I know my phone. I'm on again. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I got a crazy phone. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Hey, listen, we're going to wrap things up here in just a couple of minutes. One of the things we were talking about, since we were talking about the Ed Sullivan Show, I thought that your performance on there of Keep Me Hanging On looked really good. It didn't look like a hokey kind of thing. I mean, when you guys were on there with the lighting and everything, it looked like it was like a concert setting instead of just like, okay, we're on a TV show. I thought you guys looked fantastic on there.
Thank you. Yeah. We had our road manager in the control room, and that's why we were able to get all the graphics going behind us.
Wow.
And again, I got to give the credit to the people behind the scenes for setting it up.
Like me that sings flat.
Well, that's like this show. Father Jimmy is, if I didn't have Father Jimmy here, see, I wouldn't even be talking to you today, Vinny. You know, we wouldn't be sharing all these great stories if it wasn't for this man behind the scenes here. He's a mover and a shaker. He always has been.
Yeah, but he got an advantage. He talks to God.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Vinny.
Oh, he's good. Father Jim Drucker is a true American hero as far as I'm concerned. He was in Desert Storm, Captain, U.S. Army, and this guy comes out to our shows whenever he can, which is most of the time. And in fact, we let him come up to the rehearsals
in the garage,
playing tambourine and some congas with us. He's a great guy.
Hey, you got to watch him because he's going to end up taking over the band. That's what he does when he comes here to Youngstown. It's like, oh man, I just got to give the show up, you know.
And by the way, Vinny, Freddie would like to say thank you publicly on the air for the picture you sent him.
Oh, yes.
And for the CD you sent him.
Yes,
so he's going to thank you
awesome
formally
CD.
on the air.
Yes, because Father Jimmy has been scolding me. He has been calling me every week because I haven't got my thank you in. And now we got that all squared away. Thank you. So because he called me unprofessional. He called me ungrateful. Among other things, it's coming from a priest.
Don't leave out jerk.
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah, well, he said don't. Well, he didn't call me a jerk. He said don't be a jerk.
Okay.
That's a little different. He didn't say, hey, you're a jerk. He said don't be a jerk and get on the horn and get with Vinny and thank him for doing a nice thing.
Now, Vinny, you know that's not the truth. This man is telling false. This man is telling false statements.
I'm not going to tell false stuff about a priest. I know a little bit better than that. Come on, man. What do you think? Serving a God, I'm going to.
So now I have to go to confession.
So, Vinny, let's do a quick rundown of all the stuff you got going on, where people can find you, CDs, bands, your book. Run down the whole thing so we could let people get in touch with you.
Okay, well, everything is available on my website, vincemartell.com, MARTELL. And if anybody wants to email me, they could do that. It's Vinny Martell at AOL.com. But the other thing is Facebook. I'm all over Facebook. I'm on there quite a bit. And you can check out my page on Facebook, which is...
Well, I'm going to get on that.
Yeah. So it's Vince Martell, and that's it, excuse me, on Facebook. And there's a lot of different things. It's a picture of me on a motorcycle, on a nice Harley, and there's just the current things that I'm doing. And again, if everybody wants to see the show I did at the Iridium, we remember Jimmy Iridium. That's all they got to put in New York City. That was October 6th, the Sunday. I was on Huckabee's television show, Mike Huckabee. So that's Huckabee's Jukebox. People could put that in, Huckabee's Jukebox, and I'll pop up on that. Vince Martell on Huckabee's Jukebox. You got to put. And this is on YouTube, all this stuff. And Fudge was on Jimmy Fallon, so they could check out that Jimmy Fallon show.
Wow.
Vanilla Fudge. And yeah. So that's
And
That's some of the
also,
stupid, I'm still going. You know?
and Vinny, don't forget you were on WWDB 3 times on Rock and Roll Reveille, Father Jim Drucker show.
Yeah. Hey, we'll make sure we do some edits too from this podcast, and then you can share them on your Facebook page too, Vinny.
Oh, I would love to do that. Yes, and anytime you guys want, let me know. I'll be glad to do a promo for you. And Father Jim's show, we're trying to get some video cameras in there and get his show networked, around the country. If we could do that, because he has heroes from Vietnam and all over the place. I mean, real American heroes he has on his show all the time.
Yes.
So whatever you guys need, just please let me know.
All right, Vinny.
I was in the Navy, and I'm proud of it. And let's keep the country strong and free.
All right, man. Thank you for your service, Vinny. Father Jimmy, thank you for your service as well. Hey, Jimmy, Jimmy's here. Vinny and Jimmy, you guys got me a little confused here. Vinny, listen, thanks for taking some time out with us. Awesome stories. I just love hearing about, all the stuff, with Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin and the Fillmore. I'm sure we could go on, and we'll save some stuff for the next time we talk. And hopefully I'll get a chance to see you out there live somewhere too. Hey,
I hope so, Freddie. Thank you.
Hey,
JC, go ahead.
If you're playing live and I show up with Father Jimmy, do I get in for free too?
You sure do.
Okay. If I mention Father Jimmy Drucker, I get in for free at Vanilla Fudge or any of your side projects.
You got it. Just let me know that you're going to be there, so I'll get the roadies on it. Yes, you got it.
Yeah, there we go. Hey, Vinny Martell, thanks for talking with us, and we will talk again soon, my friend. Thank you.
Love you, Vinny. Love you. And Peg.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Love you guys. Thank you. And America first. Everybody, God bless you. And let's keep the country free and strong. Thank you, Fierce Freddie. Thank you, JC. Thank you, Father Jim Drucker. God bless every
Take care.
Thank
Vinny.
you, man.
We love you. You hear that Bronx accent?
Yeah, yeah.
Thank
Oh, no.
Love
Bye-bye.
you guys, too. Thank you. God bless.
Love
Thank
you, Vinny. I'll see you next week, Vinny.
Yeah.
God bless.
Boy, was that a good interview there or what?
God bless.
Oh, there you go.
Take care, Vinny.
Was that a good interview or
I
what?
thought it was very
Went
much.
smooth.
See, you call me. I'm the friend of the stars. I line up the big talent on this show, and I make it happen.
You the man. I think you're the best. I think he's the best pierogi cooker we've ever had.
Well, that's true.
That's
That's a well-known fact. That's not even.
but
That's a well-known fact there. That's a well-known fact.
Best pierogi cooker we've ever
Hey, you should stop by and pick up a dozen on Thursday.
We should have brought him in today.
Well, you can come pick them up right out of the pod on
Hey,
Thursday.
folks,
I'll be here. I'll do that.
I got the key. I'll go down and get you a couple dozen right now.
Isn't there here?
No,
Well,
they're
they're
about
frozen.
four blocks
Yeah,
from here.
Yeah, they're frozen. No, you know what? Why don't you stop down Thursday and we'll get you a dozen.
We'll set something up.
How's that?
I'll
send you the address. Okay. That's the least I could do for that valuable pen. you gave
JT
me.
always got the key.
That's right. JT is the man with the key.
I got the key to the church. I got the key to the hall.
Yeah,
Got it all, buddy.
that's right, man. Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
church
we'll,
key
you know
means
what?
something
We'll
different
cook
to
you up.
somebody from
We'll
Philly.
cook you up a pot specially for you.
Hot
Okay.
ones.
Yeah, we'll get
I
you
love
a
it
hot
with
ones, man.
butter boiling.
Yeah.
And
How about onions?
Steamed
how about
onions.
Are you
Oh,
like
butter?
onions? Okay.
I
Chop-
just had some today.
No, well,
An
maybe
hour
you didn't
ago at
have.
the Covered Bridge Inn. but
Yeah,
If-
nah.
you know, and
They usually
when we
deep
do
fry
this, you tell me. I'll bring them right here.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I'll stop and pick up a couple bags.
I'll
and
be
take-
eating them while you're on the air.
Take
Yeah,
them home.
yeah, yeah.
I'll sit there and do what I usually do. Sit.
No,
We did five last week.
you're
We
the
did
man
5,000
behind-
pierogies.
Yeah, we did.
That's
You're
what
the
I
man
told you.
behind the scenes, though. You see, like Vinny was talking. There's somebody out there in the front. These guys are on there, but who got him on Merv Griffith? Who got him on Ed
I
Sullivan?
was
3
management all
times?
my life. I
You
was
know?
management.
What
of
year
Wayne
did Ed
Merlin.
Sullivan go off? Maybe like 75.
I would say
76.
75 if I was going
He started like
Siri, what year
58.
did Ed Sullivan go off?
I think he started 58. 56.
Well, look, this old guy knows how to talk to Siri and get stuff on there.
1971 was canceled. Ed
Okay.
Sullivan show.
And
Yeah.
I believe 55, 56. So he had like
15,
16 years.
That's a good haul.
Yeah,
And he was-
think about all the people that were on that show.
And it was
Oh,
hard
and-
enough to put on these dumb
Yeah.
little Muppets and dancers.
Yeah,
and
Topo Gino.
jugglers.
Don't forget-
the guy with the plates on the
Yeah.
stick.
And don't
like
forget
a
the
bumble-
that was a good
Ooh,
comedic,
ooh, the
comedic,
seal, you know?
a comedic balance in the middle.
Yeah.
To bring on
You
the
know what?
heavy stuff.
And the
I think-
tumblers. They had the
Yeah, oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
trampolines, you know?
But Pito wasn't the little
Topo
mountain-
Gigio.
That's it.
Oh, contortionists too.
Yeah.
There, if you look up contortionists on the Ed Sullivan
It's
show,
Ed Sullivan.
they,
Well,
you know what though? I think a good variety show is what's missing on TV.
Right, they don't
these
have it
days.
today.
Oh, great.
But even,
You're
I mean,
right.
I'll tell you what, I see like some of these blues people that we were talking about, or like that Samantha Fish. Well, I would like to turn on the TV one day and see her on there, and maybe a good comedian. Sure. And you know, there's other
not
stunt
raunchy
people out there.
You know,
Yeah,
keep
and I
it
think
going.
there's other you know, people out there to do tricks on roller skates or roller blades or BMX bikes. And
I got a question for the rock and roll priest.
Uh-oh.
Okay, does the name Lou Monte ring a bell?
M-O-N-T.
M-O-N-T-E, Monte.
Oh yeah, he was the singer. He had the Italian singer on RCA
Exactly,
Records.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Novel.
You see, he's trying to put a fast one by you. He's testing you. Like I don't think he has enough faith in you. I think you know what? I would be insulted that this guy's. I think he's just trying to test you to see.
No,
I think he wants to show off.
He had a song about.
I think he wants to show off. I think what he's trying to do there is put you on the spot.
Topo Gigio is an act where it's a puppet,
right?
But Lou Monte has the Italian mouse.
Okay.
I think it's like, hey Giuseppe, the Italian mouse.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So
okay,
my wife and I, we spent 10 years visiting Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
Every January, you're going to have Fort Lauderdale for a week or two. So halfway through my 10 years, I'm in my 6th or 7th year. I'm in a drugstore, like a Rite Aid or a CVS. I'm getting a suntan lotion.
Yeah.
I look over and this guy's checking out, you know, and this is Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Yeah.
This is, aren't you Lou Monte? He says, bless your heart. You know what I mean? Because like he's dead now.
Yeah.
And this was in 1999.
Okay, so
and
he
was
from 71 on, and nobody probably knew who he was then, right?
Last time he was on Ed Sullivan was 72, 73.
Okay, yeah.
And this is in 98.
Right.
30, so he hasn't been on Ed Sullivan for 30 years. And when I corner him, he's like 86.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so he's an 86-year-old guy, burnt, you know, the sun burned him. Aren't you Lou Monte? He did everything but kiss me. But the Italian mouse. And don't you remember he had that gig about the Italian mouse that's flying the airplane? And something about this is Alitalia Airlines. And after the song, he goes, and we're going down, so fasten your seatbelt. And I want to thank you for flying Alitalia Airlines. Yeah, it was a gig song. We'll have to pull that up.
Oh boy.
But
well, what do you guys ready to wrap this up? We only been at this for like 2.5 hours.
Hey, time flies when you're having fun.
It certainly does. So, Father Jimmy, always good to see you. You know, run down all your stuff too, where people can find you.
I'm on 2 times on Saturday, 6 to 8 a.m., which is all taped streaming on OutsideFM.com. OUTSIDE capital FM.com, 6 to 8 a.m. every Saturday. It's taped. And the other show that's live is my proud project is Rock and Roll Reveille. And that is every Saturday on WWDB AM 860. If you want to download it, it's www.dbam.com. And I have a Facebook page on Father Jim Drucker, and I'm hoping to get the show to go onto video. And by the way, I'm very proud to share this with you, Fast Freddie and JT. And I love you all out there in radio TV land, both voices.
Cyberspace. We're in cyberspace here, man.
We're streaming cyberspace. But I forgot what I was going to say now. I lost my train of thought. And not because of you, but
you had a big announcement for me and JT.
Yeah, I forgot what it was.
And everybody on
it's
TV
that big. There's a man called Art Volo, and Art is called radio's best friend. And he goes around, he's gone around the last 40 years taping all of the famous disc jockeys. I'm talking Tiger, joke.
Old dead ones or?
No, the live ones. Come on, not JT. he taped Dan Ingram, Jack Spector, Herb Oscar Anderson.
Who was the guy you were talking about the other day?
The Geeter.
Oh, yeah, he taped him. Jerry was my best friend. I
knew
Jerry.
Still alive?
No, he passed away about a year ago.
That's what I was.
I knew him for 70 years.
How old was he when he passed?
He was 1 year younger than me. So he would have been like 80, 81.
Jerry Blavitt.
Yeah, Jerry Blavitt the Geeter.
And what station was he on?
He was on a lot of stations. The last station was on BLT FM in New Jersey. It goes into Philly. But he used to be Danny the Junior's road manager. That's how he became famous. A great disc jockey, very, very famous.
What was his home radio station, though?
Well,
I mean, he started out.
The first one was WCAM in Camden, New Jersey.
Okay, I thought
And then he
guy.
went to Philly to OGL.
That's what I thought,
which was the oldie station, 1600. Yeah,
Right.
and then he went to TV and so forth.
Yeah.
But he made his money by gigs. He was at the Live Casino, all the different casinos. He did very well for himself.
Oh, okay.
And he was very talented, very short and skinny. You know, he was never put on the Fat Boy Club like me in the Air Force for 2 pounds. Anyway, that's another story. So anyway, Art Volo, who's taped all these greats, Lou Simon from Jukebox Saturday Night, whom I just met by phone, and Tiger, Shotgun Kelly. He taped him, everyone.
Casey Kasem,
all of them. He came in to tape my show.
Wow.
He said that Rock and Roll Priest is going to be on the archives along with all these greats. So that was the epitome of success for me in the radio industry.
Yeah, it's Fats Freddie on that tape. No,
radio's best friend
is the man on the tape.
Yep. Yeah.
How about that?
Along with Dan Ingram, who's the greatest disc jockey ever lived? Dan Ingram. Oh, how to be.
Really?
Great.
See, now we ought to have, just like the way you named the top 10 guitar
There's
players.
no second guessing on this. Dan Ingram is the greatest.
So you're saying Murray the K is below him?
He was good. Dan Ingram is the greatest rock and roll, most clever, wittiest disc jockey
and the
ever
Wolfman
lived.
Jack is below him?
He was great.
Okay.
But Dan Ingram was the epitome of a commercial rock and roll disc jockey with talent and personality.
And what was his station?
WABC, #1 radio station in
New
the
York
world.
City?
77 WABC. Kemosabe.
Working I never heard of Ingram from Youngstown.
Yeah, he's on #1.
Never.
But a lot of great disc jockeys. And by the way, I just got introduced back again after 40 years when he was at KQV, Joey Reynolds. Hi, Joey Reynolds from KBW and from DRC in Hartford, WOR, New York City. And he was on my show a few weeks ago with Johnny Madera, whom we had on our show.
Yeah.
Who wrote out the Hop, Leslie Gore's You Don't Know Me, 1, 2, 3, Len Barry, and so forth. But anyway.
I thought Leslie Gore's stuff was all the black Quincy something.
He did a lot of it. And Johnny in
Quincy
conjunction with Quincy Jones had done the You Don't Know Me, which was the with Dolly Parton, the movie where they're shuffling out at the end of it was the theme song of the movie.
But
5 o'clock something.
Yeah.
Something
9 to 5.
9 to 5.
But the girl gives Quincy Jones like a lot of props for making her career.
Oh yeah, he's one of the
Leslie
greatest. Gore. Yeah. Anyway, that's it. And
all right.
And I'm just grateful to be here with you.
It's always good to see you. And
maybe sometime next time I come, we'll get Joey Reynolds on.
Yeah.
He's a tremendous.
Whatever you say.
He's the second greatest rock disc jockey.
Okay, so where does Casey Kasem stack?
He was
1 to 10.
I would say he was top 10.
Number
maybe
9?
number 6, 7.
You know what? This is a good one.
Because you know why?
This is a good conversation.
Because
you hear all this. Who's the greatest baseball player? Who's the greatest outfielder? Who is, I'm
we got 2 disc jockeys.
Right. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Oh, I could beat that one up.
Yeah.
Now, I did become close with Johnny Dark. That was KYC, Cleveland.
Uh-huh.
He went on to fame with sports and that stuff.
Yeah.
So whatever.
Yeah, I would just even like to talk about the so many great people on the air in Cleveland in the 70s.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. By the way,
there are just so many.
We could get Stephen Allen Scott.
Yeah.
Steve Rosenberger was a GAR. He did the last rock and roll show on WGAR, 50,000 watts in Cleveland.
But where are you going to put Alan Freed here?
Well, what do you mean? He was a great disc jockey.
I know, but is he in the top 10, Alan Freed?
Or is he in a different class?
You don't have the word. You don't have the word. When he says "let's rock and roll," without him, you don't have that word.
Right. Yes.
He would be like a legendary.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he would be in his own category, kind of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
pioneer, legendary.
And then another friend who was a great disc jockey was Dick Summer, and he was on BZ at night. They skipped 35 states. The signal would go to 35 states. And he does my intro of my show.
Oh, man.
Rock and Roll Reveille.
All right. Hey, listen, we got to wrap this up. I think Joe wants to go home.
I'm ready.
But once we get yapping here, I mean, this was over 2 hours.
And the next show, we'll have Tony Patel on.
Okay? Tony Patel from the Letterman. Good. We'll do another oldies extravaganza.
I've seen him 3 times,
now,
Tony Patel.
Here is something that I got to wonder. If we play some air checks without the music from some of these guys, I wonder if we could get away with that. As long as we don't play the music, if we could say, he could say, hey, here's Dan Ingram. Here's, we could play a vocal clip.
Some scoped air checks.
Yeah. From their air check. And we'll just play that without the music on it.
Are we on the air right now? Still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're going to have to explain to me what a
What's
air
copyright
check
laws?
is.
Air check?
That's when you just they'll run a tape. Well, now it's not a tape, but they run a tape of your show. And like he was talking earlier, especially back in the day.
I was talking bumper music earlier.
Oh, yeah. But when Father Jimmy first came in, when he was talking about, you drive around in your car if you were a DJ and you'd always have a tape of your show.
Yeah.
And so it's just you on there talking. It's the DJ talking and maybe like about 2 seconds of the music.
Okay.
And then there might be a commercial so they could hear
And
your
if you're
voice.
smart, what you do, I say, JT, tape me this week.
Okay.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know when.
Right. Yeah.
Just because that's the
if
real
you know
me.
you're being taped,
So if I
then
give
you're
that
gonna-
tape to somebody, then that's me. I'm going to be that all the time.
Right.
But otherwise,
the
I'm
music
in the
wouldn't
top
be
of the
there, but the
music on the
DJ,
95.
the
no,
chat
you
would
start
be
getting
in there.
serious.
Okay.
And maybe just a little bit of the song so they could hear how the show is flowing.
Yeah, I hear you, but
if you go to YouTube, think of any DJ you want, and practically you look it up, and you'll find a quote unquote air check of them on there. And then you could listen to any of these guys. Dan Ingram, I'm sure there's a million things on there.
I just know the audience, like as I told you earlier, it's really hard for them to identify if they can't hear 4 bars, 5, 6 bars,
Yeah.
And
all right. Well,
The
speaking
nature
of
of,
4, 5, 6 bars, I think there's a couple there calling me. I got to get moving here, man. This show just drove me to drink today.
I got to put the garbage out.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, your guy come on Tuesday too, huh?
No, it's Thursday.
Listen, it's been a blessing to be here, Freddie.
Oh,
Thank you.
Father Jimmy, always good to see you.
And
Love
we
you,
say
man.
to our audience, Slava Jesus Hristo, and you say,
Slava Naviki.
Oh, we love you all. May God bless you, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit of all. Ім'я Отця і Сину і Святого Духа.
Amen. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, JT, oldies expert extraordinaire, Father Jimmy Drucker, rock and roll priest, and Joe Danier and the Youngstown studio for putting this all together for us. Thank you, everybody. I'm sure Joe wants to go home at this point in time. So let's clear out. Thank you, everybody. We'll catch you next Monday. I'll catch you tomorrow, Y103. Be listening for your chance to win fly away to Las Vegas, to that new Sphere, to check out the Eagles, hottest ticket around, and a lot of good music. And we do what we normally do. So take care, everybody. See you next week.
Take care.
God bless.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe